City Council on November the 28th, I believe it is. Yep. If we could have everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Roll call. Mayor Racy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brock,
Here.
Councilman Dowd,
Here.
Councilwoman Wass. Here. Councilman Clearman,
Here.
Councilman Mulholland. Here. Councilman Quarles, absent.
Yeah. And I have something on that, actually. Councilman Quarles wanted to be here this evening, but due to his work schedule, he was not able to make it. He's in Grand Rapids, and just wanted everybody to know that he will be reviewing the tapes. He will be reviewing the tapes afterwards, but he's unable to be here due to his work. They took him out of town for the next couple days. So I just wanted to make sure the public knew that.
Just a moment for technical. Ryan, could you turn up the microphones, please? Test. Does that sound louder?
Seems like it's low.
You're usually a little quiet, that was quieter.
Yeah, no, I could tell it's not on the same way. I think that's a little bit better.
Test. That's better.
A bit better.
Okay, so the first order of business, and our only order of business is to interviews for position of city manager. And we have Michael Landis from Gibraltar.
Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Risa.
I got a couple things I want to just say before we start. So tonight, we're going to do about 50 to 60 minutes. We're going to try to keep the questions within around 50 minutes and then let you be able to speak at the end. Council, when you go through this list, if you could tell us what number you're going from, so it's easier for everybody to keep track of these. I'm guessing we're probably going to get to about 20 of these questions in the time allotted. But if just so we're all able to keep on the same page, that would be wonderful. And like I said, I'm going to give you time at the end to do a closing statement. I also want to let everybody know that it's here. Tonight's meeting is being recorded. That will be broadcast after tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're not broadcasting tonight so that nobody has the questions in advance to make this fair for everybody that is being interviewed. So with that, welcome. And I guess I'll start it off with, could you tell us why you want to be the city manager in Wayne and to point out what particular skills and experience you possess that make you a good fit for us?
Absolutely, yes. Again, my name is Michael Landis. I hail from the city of Gibraltar, Michigan, as it might be. I have a master's in public administration with an undergraduate in criminal justice from Oakland University. During that time, I was recognized in the Honor Society for academic excellence for Alpha Alpha Pi. Immediately upon receiving my accreditation, I started working in the municipal sector with the Township of Groseal in their building department, as it might be. Getting my feet wet, the opportunity for assistant administrator came up in Gibraltar, Michigan. I applied and was recognized and was brought on staff there as their DPW director and assistant city administrator. From there, appointed to acting, and from there, appointed to the city administrator. During my time with Gibraltar, we've done a significant amount of work reestablishing the city and realigning it with its goal set. I'd like to, again, keep my application open to the city of Wayne. This has been an opportunity that has appeared. We do have a new council, and it is, again, they have their agenda to bring in, as it might be. Of course, we all have the willingness to work for the city of Gibraltar, but it sounds like they may want their own people. So that is, again, why I'm seeking out additional opportunities for employment. So again, I work with the city of Gibraltar in the administrator capacity, running the day-to-day operations as city administrator, DPW director, advisor to the planning commission, DDA director, streets administrator, grants coordinator. I wear a multitude of hats as we are as well a small community. We're just under a 5,000 population. I understand that Wayne is slightly bigger, actually more than 3 times bigger at 17,000. So I'm looking to expand my horizons, sharpen my skill set, and bring my experience to the city of Wayne.
Mayor Pro Tem?
During the course of your impressive career, what experience have you had? This is a question for manager interview from the supplemental number 1. What experience have you had working with developing policy at the locations that you've been for the city council or any other local government? By policy, like advising your council in the past, what sort of experience have you had advising them?
Got it. So as the role of administrator, my job is to advise and implement the will of the council, as it might be. I'm the professional in the field, whereas the council is the political and those who make the decision at the end of the day. I am in an advisory capacity. I will recommend anything that is in the best interest of the city, aligns with the goals as laid out by council, and continue to make that the priority. Working with staff, working with these other departments, as it might be, whether it's DPW, police, fire, EMS, the multitude of unions that we do have, or work with. Again, community partners, professional engineering, planning services. We bring the professionals to the table. We discuss, we organize what policy initiatives must be done. One major task that I was brought on to do was to find a funding source for the water sanitary and stormwater asset management plan that the city had. This is about a $40 million plan that does not have a dedicated funding source at the time I was brought on. So the policy initiative that we led was developing a millage ask for the city of Gibraltar as it relates to a dedicated millage for sanitary and stormwater plan. We went through the millage campaign as it might be, provided information to the public, hosted town halls, worked with mayor and council to best represent the city and what it is we needed to do to upgrade our infrastructure. One of the major items that we looked at was cure-in-place piping to repair sanitary assets in the ground in lieu of major excavation. The cure-in-place piping is a substance that is adhered to the existing infrastructure, thus creating a pipe within inside of a pipe. We educated the stakeholders in our community. We brought on the engineers to come in, show us what exactly was happening and how it stopped infiltration, which ultimately the city pays for on the sanitary side. So through that, we were successful in passing a millage of 2.5 for a 5-year reoccurring cycle, which is a step in the right direction. That was done within 8 months of me coming on staff for the city of Gibraltar, and the millage was effective summer last year. From that, we've also incorporated a line item on our water management for water charges in the city of Gibraltar. Again, the water account needs to act as an enterprise fund. It needs to invest back into itself, invest back into that infrastructure. Prior to me being with the city of Gibraltar, there was no raises within the water rates for 5 years. Again, one of the first things that I noted upon coming into staff is we need to readjust our water rates. We need to make this work like an enterprise fund. So we raised that rate, and we added a single $1 line item for a capital improvements cost, which is, again, a dedicated fund, so it can only be reinvested into the account, so it is not parlayed off as a expenditure. If the account ever is overdrawn in any capacity, it's still set aside for that work. So that $1 really turns into $104,000, as our general water sales is about $104 million.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Dowd?
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Landis. I'm going to go with question number 3. If offered the position of city manager, how will you go about getting to know the community and staying connected with the stakeholders and residents?
First things first, I have to meet everyone. And by everyone, I mean in the city, the employees. I want to have a one-on-one. I want to have a discussion with them. I know it's a tall ask because there's 97 full-time staff. There's 65 or so part-time staff. I want to have those roundtables, get to know each individual here in the city, what their critical role is in operations. I want to have long discussions and one-on-ones and study sessions with council, with boards such as the DDA, see where operations can align and how we can work together to put the city of Wayne in the position to bolster itself. As I know, economics is a item that is returning to the city of Wayne. We want to brighten that. We want to bolster it, and we want to make it something that is achievable. But again, we have to have that collective buy-in as a community. So we want to engage not only the stakeholders that we have here on staff, but those prime businesses in the community of Wayne, the professionals that we solicit services from. I know a couple of the items that will be coming up is looking for additional people to be brought in for engineering and for building services here for the city of Wayne. That is something that I'd be ready and willing to tackle. I know it's a challenge no matter where you're at in the municipal field for those, and you need the right individual in those positions. So can one individual make a difference? Absolutely. But again, it has to be a collective effort at the end of the day for the community.
Thank you.
Councilman Wass?
What experience do you have? Let me make sure I know where it is.
What number?
So, from what you've learned of Wayne, this is number 11. From what you've learned of Wayne, sorry, forgot this thing. What do you think our two biggest challenges will be in the next 3 years, and how would you tackle and what processes would you follow?
I think one of the major items of the city of Wayne is it sounds like they have some binding arbitration that is going to need to be worked through that poses an outstanding liability to the city of Wayne. That is something that I will have to come on and learn as much about as quickly as possible and be ready to provide the best service I can for the city of Wayne and make sure that we end up on the right side of the coin as it relates to that. Working with legal, working with mayor, working with council to best inform the city as to steps forward and to ultimately get the outcome that the city of Wayne deserves in this category. Second is going to be lead service line replacement and DPW operations. As it is, the state of Michigan has the incentive and direction that was given to its local municipalities to remove all lead service lines. I see that the city of Wayne does have a $5 million allocation from the state, which is excellent. Some extra challenges that comes along with that will be single audit requirements, Davis-Bacon, Buy America. So there are elements that we have to immediately incorporate as to an RFP process, whether it's either in-house to ensure that this funding is spent appropriately and done correctly. The lead service lines is a challenge no matter where you're at, as this is a unique item that the city has become responsible for private property. As full lead service needs to be replaced, and not just from the main to the shutoff box. So this is to go inside the house. It has to get into what would be the privately owned plumbing. Granted, we're not replacing privately owned plumbing, just the tap. So educating and developing a plan to be able to tackle that in an effective manner. Again, we have to have done 5% as it might be per year starting in 2026 or 2025. And that is something that if there is, again, a plan, I'd love to see it and I'd love to refine it and I'd love to get it on the forefront of DPW operations, as it is a very high hill to climb.
Okay. Councilman Mulholland?
Good evening. There's many strategies for economic and community development. As you reviewed data and toured the city of Wayne, what do you see as our most pressing development issues, and what approaches might you suggest for us?
That's question 16.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Again, there is a little bit to that question as to what do I see and what do I not see. Infrastructure is going to be a major element that is not seen. As far as I understand, I have not been able to, quantify a full perspective on the sanitary water and storm asset management plans that the city of Wayne has or would like to develop, but that is something that I would love to continue to delve into and figure out strong funding mechanisms to improve those systems. Is again, as I stated, it is a cost that is not seen. A lot of the time, these are underground infrastructures, not worried about leaky pipes in your wall until it starts coming into your living room. Similarly, we're not worried about leaky pipes in the ground or inflow and infiltration into the sanitary system that the city is ultimately paying for treatment. So that is one thing that I would love to investigate much further. Roads infrastructure, again, that is something that is going to be divvied up as it might be into two buckets, being local, well, even three, local, county, and or major road systems here in the community, taking and working through an asset plan to improve roads infrastructure is always something that is going to be a priority, as everyone sees that in the day-to-day, and it does impact you on the day-to-day, whether it's your own personal vehicles, city vehicles, items such as that, and just overall bringing more vibrance to the city. It seems like it is on a very strong upswing, and I'd love to continue that. I know there is a growing population of 65 and older here in the community, so tailoring industry to help, one, service those individuals, but to inspire others to come to the city, and making the 18 to 24-year-old, 18 to 30-year-old category an enticing move here to the city of Wayne.
Number 13. Right now, our city pension is one of our largest expenses. It's also one that the taxpayers are least likely to want to pay for because they've already got quite a few taxes. How would you set up a campaign to try another time to have voters approve millage to fund the city, to approve the city pension obligation?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat the question? I didn't quite catch it all.
How would you set up a campaign to try another time to have voters approve a millage to fund the city's pension obligation?
So, as far as I understand, the general employee pension is about 61% funded through MERS. As it stands, it's defined benefit contribution, and that is it's a healthcare after retirement's problem. So the OPEB liability is quite high, as that might be. I'm in the unique position of our current pension systems are fully funded, and our OPEB is very low and manageable. This is something that is a challenge regardless of where you're at, but an ask to the general public to assist in doing this is not something that is out of the ordinary or is unachievable by any means. Strong education campaign is going to be number one. I know the city was hit with a judgment a few years ago as it relates to OPEB liability, and a levy of 13 mils or so was thrown out, which is a very substantial amount of money for everyone's pocketbook. Lowering that, and again, building that community initiative to being a neighbor to one another, and again, having a dedicated funding source, as it might be in a millage ask, for retirement system is something that, again, can be done. Reinvesting the knowledge and the wherewithal of the employee is something that needs to be done, and that goes through bolstering our own community employees who are currently serving. You have to show that everyone here in the city is here for the city, and again, developing that community buy-in, that want to do more for your neighbor, is something that'll have to be done. Of course, numbers at the end of the day are going to speak. So really boiling it back to what needs to be put in is going to be working with the actuaries, working with the pension board, figuring out what exactly our bottom dollar will be as it relates to what needs to be put away each year to reach a sustainable rate, as not to get hit with any further judgment or requirement by the state.
This is question 20. What is the most important skill or talent a manager can have when it comes to council-manager relationships? Can you tell us of a time when you've had to rely on the skill to build it or improve relationships?
Yes, absolutely. Number one is we have to have a common goal. Everyone up here wants to work and do the best for the city of Wayne. As it might be, we all have our own ideas on how to get there. Again, my role is an advisory capacity to the council, but we would love to be aligned in that regard. So working together, figuring out what needs to be done and, how to do it, and then allowing administration to execute that on council's behalf is something that needs to be done in the wake of trust. But this is a full team effort. I mean, department heads, not just an administrator, are all pivotal in trying to manage the day-to-day operations, finance, the city clerk, police and fire. This, again, has to be a team effort, and we have to work as a cohort to be able to do it. So part of that is just relationship building. I want to get to know each and every person here, as it might be. I want to know what your ideas are, where your skill sets may lie, where others may maybe lesser, and leverage the skills that everyone has to best serve the populace. I know that again, we can't all get along as it might be all the time. I've had a relationship with a member of our council who they had one way they would like to see things done, and I would always indicate to them that it sounds like a really good idea. Unfortunately, I can't take direction from one person. So if we want to work together on an initiative to achieve something, let's work together as a council, and then I'll receive that directive so we can, one, do it in a timely manner, and two, do it in an effective manner, and do it above board.
Mayor Pro Tem?
We've been attracting some attention lately from outside, from other government agencies. And my question for you is, what sort of experience have you had, and are you willing to grow into it with what you have not had, with county, state, and federal officials, elected and otherwise, while you carried out your duties?
Absolutely. So relationship building does not stop in the walls or the bounds of the community. One of the first things I do is I'd love to reach out to local area representatives. In our district, we have Jamie Churches and Debbie Dingle, and Darren Camilleri is our state and federal, and then obviously Senator Peters as our state and federal representatives. Our county commissioner, Ray Basham, we work with him on a regular basis as well. We utilize and leverage all elements of government. I have a lot of their personal contact information. For example, I'll give a recap. The city of Gibraltar was hit with basically a monsoon, as it might be. We experienced about 6 inches of rain in just under 4 hours. That doesn't bode well for the sanitary storm systems, as we are a lakefront community. We are prone to flooding. And when we wake up and we see people kayaking down the roads, we know it's going to be a bad day. 12 hours later, we were subsequently hit by a tornado. So that was not a good stretch of time for the city. That happened about 10 p.m. I was back in the office by 11. By 10 a.m., Debbie Dingle was in my office. We worked together to work through their offices to get Red Cross aid. DT came out and set up a information booth and passed out water and portable electronics and lamps to residents. Again, with Darren Camilleri, we got hold of the National Weather Service, got in contact with NOAA, indicated that yes, there was a tornado from there, worked with our Wayne County officials through their Department of Public Services to aid our Department of Public Services in removing debris from town. We were had many down trees. We really did get set back a month on the DPW front of just taking care of tornado damage. But again, we leverage that community support as well. We have a small graveyard in our town, and many of the trees, very large, very old trees, came down. By the time I got back out in the morning, we had Michigan Cat out there helping out, and they're just saying, no, we're just doing this on our time. We're helping out the community. There are a lot of, again, I love that buy-in, as it might be for the city. Again, reaching out through Debbie Dingle's office, through our commissioner, and through Jamie Church's office, the city of Gibraltar was able to receive a line item in the state budget for $400,000 for lead service lines. Our tabletop only indicates we have 30 or so, as opposed to Wayne's 600. But you know, they are, again, expensive items, as our budgets are nowhere close. But again, leveraging that and leveraging our county commissioners, there's a lot of support within the county. It's just getting the right person, and again, getting that personal level communication, and you know, that level of civility and just friendliness that, you know, is sometimes missed when you can't do things in person, like over the pandemic. Zoom made it a very strong challenge, but, you know, getting back and having in-person meetings, getting out, talking to our representatives, being a member partner of the Downriver Community Conference. We see them on a monthly basis. We have updates from MDOT. We get updates from Eagle. We get updates from the EPA. All the agencies that are within our district and within our community. We have contact and communication with them very, very frequently.
That was question 3 on the supplemental.
So, number 3 on supplemental.
Councilman Dowd?
Thank you. Mr. Landis, feel free to take a drink of water. You've been on a good clip here talking. I just ask if you could, your mic is a little light for my ears.
Okay.
If you can move the mic a little closer and speak up, I'd appreciate that. Our community is sandwiched in between a lot of larger communities in our neighborhoods. I'm going to talk or ask the question number 17. How successful have you been in securing grant funds in the past? And looking at the state and federal landscape going forward, what projects with external funding streams would you concentrate here in our city of Wayne?
Absolutely. So in my short tenure, I have brought in about $3.5 million in grants for the city of Gibraltar. I came in and oversaw a bridge project that had already been currently awarded to the city, but that was one of the first major projects and coordinations of those grant dollars that I had seen, working directly with MDOT to do so through their local bridge program. We were successful in application for another bridge, which was in the sum of $2.9 million, just under $3 million, for one of our others that we're currently saving in our local roads account to make the subsequent 5% construction cost and engineering and permitting cost as it relates to the need of the grant. Again, I worked with the CDGB, Wayne County Block Grant, as it might be, Housing and Urban Development Grant, federal dollars funneled through the county. We were successful in petitioning and writing a grant for them, and we received compensation of $120,000 for a new senior van for our senior transit program. Good news is it just arrived, and we just got a check from CDGB, so that's excellent. So again, that was a pay it forward kind of grant. We have to pay that, but it is a reimbursed grant. So again, grants management is something we're always looking out for. We've applied for local coastal resiliency grants through EGLE, through the EPA, or Department of Great Lakes Energy, Natural Resources. Again, $400,000 was received from a state earmark through working with community and local House and Senate leaders, as it might be, through Debbie Dingle, through Darren Camilleri, through Jamie Churches. So keeping an eye out for these opportunities as it relates to the major goals that the city of Wayne will have is something that it really is the responsibility of the person sitting in the chair. Making council aware, developing and learning what grant options are out there. asking other communities, seeing what they were successful doing, how they were able to manage and receive. That was part of, how I learned to, write out for the community block. I spoke with the director in Allen Park, and he had indicated to me that you're eligible every 5 years to receive $100,000, but you have to make it known. We're unique in our community. We don't have areas that are CDGV specific. It is our senior services. So leveraging that to be able to utilize it in an effective and meaningful manner was something that we were all really proud of, and is seen and is utilized by our seniors, as we have an elderly population in our community as well. So again, I subscribe to many of the state and federal email blasts, as it might be, so I'll get updates as to different grant opportunities or just funding opportunities that do exist. And a lot of the things, they're currently not applying to us. The city of Wayne has a different multitude, so I'd have to learn a little bit. That's going to come with any position, as it might be. So the minute you stop learning, as minute you're kind of done. So you always got to keep learning. But again, leveraging the knowledge in the chairs. What have you seen? What is information that you care about? What are the city objectives? And then finding opportunities to help leverage grant dollars is something that is, it should be our responsibility. Make our taxpayers' money go further.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ross?
So that was my question. So I'm going to go with, sorry. So let's go with one of these fun ones here. This is question 10. City manager is often in the midst of tug wars between departments or employees, residents, elected officials, neighbors, or other groups all at once. What is your go-to strategy in dealing with conflict or divisive priorities?
Again, getting the lay of the land. When you have two individuals or two clashes, as it might be, for direction, whether the DPW needs a new plow truck or the fire department needs a new ladder truck. We have to do sometimes those cost benefit analyses. What is going to be the purchase, right? We can't afford both, or do we have to look at leveraging additional dollars or unique pools of money where we wouldn't be able to otherwise? If again a public safety millage is out there or passed, it's like, okay, that's fantastic. We find a dedicated funding source for that. But in the meantime, if DPW truly needs a new vehicle, bring those department heads in, talk to them, figure out where they can align, because one of the people can't do the job without the other. It's a team effort, as it might be. Do you have any, more specifics that you're looking for as it relates to that question? Do you have any more specifics that you're looking for as it relates to that question?
No, I mean, we had a lot of things go on here, like, there was a big division in the city about what to do with the pensions and not, I mean, how do you deal with, occasionally we get people who come in that are just derisive, citizens themselves. What is your go-to strategy for calming a situation? What is your go-to strategy for conflict resolution? Let's call it that.
Yeah, got it. So, the unfortunate thing is you can never make everyone happy. But what you can do is you can find the facts. So, bringing people in and finding the facts, finding what the, economic solution might be, what may be the equitable solution, what may be the, I enjoy this, and so this is the one I want solution. And, explain away all of the outliers, as it might be. Find the data-informed decision, and that's really what it needs to do. Give everyone the chance to speak their piece too, because a lot of the time it is about being listened to, being heard, and responding to questions. You can ask a question, but you may not hear the question. So listening and responding as it relates to the question is very important, and especially when you're talking with the public. So we have residents that'll come in from time to time who are divisive. They're loud. They may be rude, as it could be. That doesn't happen all the time, but it does. But coming out there, going with a calm, level head, raising a voice never helps any kind of situation, as it might be. So listening and trying to get to the root of what the question is or the problem is, because a lot of the time it's not as hard of a solution or a opportunity that is there is not an unreasonable ask at the end of the day, or it sounds just ludicrous at the beginning, or sometimes it is. We had a resident the other day. He came in, and they indicated that they've been taking care of a piece of property, and they wanted a map of their plot. They wanted the assessor's description of it. So we provided it to him. A few days later, he comes back and he says, I think this adjoining parcel is mine. I'm paying for it. So we look and say, well, do you have a survey on file? No. Our assessing records don't indicate this is your property. And it becomes an argument from the person, as it might be, that no, this is mine. I've been paying for it. I've been taking care of it. I've been trimming the trees on it. I've been doing everything for 30 years, and I want to sell my property, and I want to get my my full return on it. And it's like, sir, I completely understand you want to sell your property. I 100% appreciate everything you've done helping keep our city beautiful. As it stands, I can't tell you that this is your property. Could you provide me with a survey? And that wasn't going to fly with the resident, as it might be. He was still quite upset, didn't want to buy for a survey, and he was loud, he was boisterous, But again, boiling it back, taking a breath, it's like, sir, I appreciate that you're so passionate about this, but as you're head appointed official here in the city, I can't do anything without the information, and I hope you can respect that. And that seemed to resonate with him. He still wants the city to pay for the survey. He still wants them to, again, we can't do that, sir. Again, working through it, and it's like, can I talk to the mayor? Of course you can talk to the mayor. What time will work? And then we bring him in, sit him down, have a further discussion. And eventually he comes back, the survey is not his property. It's road easement. So, but at the end of the day, he felt he was heard. He felt he was given the time of day, and we didn't brush him off, because brushing off the problem doesn't solve a problem. So answering it is what you have to do.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Councilman Mulholland?
This question isn't on the list, but can you tell me about what your personal and your professional, what's your greatest strength? And then on the other side of that coin, I don't want to call it your greatest weakness, maybe your area of improvement, the area that you might need the most improvement in.
Definitely. So I like to think I'm a very personable person. I always want to engage, always want to learn and listen, and I think I have a very good strength as it relates to making, again, data-informed decisions, but building a relationship with those that I work with, and at the same time, it can be a challenge when, again, you don't see necessarily eye to eye. You have to work through that. You got to work together. So again, working and building those interpersonal relationships, as it might be, I am absolutely and want to and willing to do so. And that is something that I always try to do. I always try to make myself very available, very open, and especially as it relates to mayor and council, it's open door policy, just like it would be for the general public or the coworkers. Information is always received and again redisseminated to the council in an effective and timely manner. If there's something that needs to be brought to the attention of someone, it is. We're not siloing ourselves off. So being able to work together and with each other is a very strong goal of mine, and something that I always try to work to improve, as each relationship is different. So my willingness to continue to try to work with someone even if they don't want to work with me me sometimes is something that, I find is a strength. Something that, again, I need to work on, something that I do here, and it was even mentioned, it's like, I don't speak very loud. It doesn't mean that I'm not confident. It just means that I don't speak very loud. Again, raising my voice doesn't solve anything at the end of the day, but projecting and being able to be heard is something that's very important, and, I don't ever want to come off, coarse or, you know, ineffective or unconfident as to what I'm doing. So sometimes just the personal carry is a little weak, and I always want to carry myself in a responsible and respectful manner. And again, always need to learn more. The manager position, you need to be a Swiss Army knife. You need to be able to adapt and improvise and overcome all the challenges and use the tools and the resources that you have, not only at your staff, but inside, outside, neighboring communities, Conference of Western Wayne even. I'm not sure how well versed the city of Wayne is with that, but it is something that, I'd love to learn more about and be active in. Again, building those personal, professional networks, I feel like I'm very strong at doing. But again, learning and, is something that needs to be done every day.
Councilman Clareman?
This also isn't on there. Your resume indicates you've been in government service for about 3 years now.
Correct.
How long do you expect to be a city manager here?
So as it stands, I'd love to be city manager for as long as possible, as it might be. As it stands, the turnover rate for administrators is unfortunately, in that 3 to 5 year category. Again, I want to build those relationships, create that foundation, and be effective in my role, whoever is in the chair. I want to work with any administration, with any people, but I can't always necessarily control that, just due to the nature of my position. So I would love to be with the city of Wayne for, again, as long as feasible. That is something that is, very important to me, is stability. So I want to be, in a position where I understand what I'm walking into every day. I don't want to have to worry about, having to flip over and go somewhere else every couple of years. It's not something that I enjoy as a just occupational hazard. I would consider it.
Thank you.
Okay, could you talk, this is question 18, could you talk to us a bit about the use of technology as a tool for greater operational efficiency and as an effective communication and citizen engagement tool?
Absolutely. So the city of Gibraltar, we have what is some Cadillacs of equipment, and as well as some very antiquated technology. One of the antiquated items we had was our website. We went out to RFP. We developed a new website with a new vendor, as it might be, and really brought us up to speed for being able to engage with the public in a virtual platform, which was something that was absent before. Our clerk assists with helping keep that updated with all the information that is going on, whether it's community events, community meetings, public engagement sessions with community leaders, community organizers, business officials, whatever the case might be. We like to keep that open. We try to keep it as updated as possible. Obviously, the reaching out is easy. Being heard is not, and that's a challenge. We can present all the information, and I'm sure council knows that. Yes, we post up our study session. We post up our council meeting. Here's the agenda. All right. 5 months later, when did this happen? Well, we did everything we needed to do, and we shared all the information we can share. We used our platforms, again, but extending those platforms, thinking again, what creative technology can we use to help assist with that? One thing that a vendor was talking to me about was utilization of apps and developing an app and being able to work with people in a almost a pop-up kind of way. The nice thing about the apps or pop-ups, as it might be, is everyone's on their phone. That's the sad truth. We're all on it. We all see it, and we're more apt to see something that pops up on our cell phone as a little, it's like, hey, the city of Wayne is having a music in the park tonight. This is the band, come enjoy it. And then, you know, you, again, control the narrative. You put it out there. What do you want to hear? What do you want to see, as it might be? So in a wake, it's a great public engagement tool. The city also utilizes Nixle, which is a text to response kind of service where, you know, if there is a water main break, there is a police road closure, there is something that's a problem, we can disseminate that via text to our community. We have a Facebook page, we post to that. We all have, the clerk and I, we have access to that as necessary. Other items such as just workflow, as it might be. We have global information or geographic information systems, or GIS, with the city of Gibraltar, which helps identify, and it has data mapping of all of our water, storm, and sanitary asset plans. The city received a SAW grant in 2017 to do so from the state. And we utilize that system on a daily basis, but it's also a warehouse hub for information. We can develop reporting tools, where our representatives in the field from the DPW, and then be like, hey, we're doing asset inspections, we're doing lead line surveys. You know, we have our list of 400 so homes that we're excavating trench boxes or excavating curb boxes for. As part of that, as they're doing it, they're uploading pictures of the information. They're uploading descriptions of the information. Is that to be replaced? Okay. No, the curb box needs replaced. Okay, we're going to do that, but we're also going to indicate it. We're adding assets as we find them that have not been found, and it's a great tool, as it might be, and even leveraging that further, working with GLWA, or the Great Lakes Water Authority, which is our water supplier for the city. They have an AquaSite tool, which is workflow. I'm getting introduced with that currently. I'm actually needing to learn a little bit more about it and how it can fit into our system tomorrow. But as a member partner, that is something we've paid for many years, but have had no idea that existed. Again, getting out of the community, I learned about that at a GLWA meeting that was held in Farmington a few weeks ago. So I got on the horn. Of course, we're ready for install tomorrow. So that is something. It's taking and, you know, again, adapting what is out there. What are we paying for? Finding out, you know, how it works. Again, another item that we've worked is we're reintroducing our pay systems in the city. We've changed over from all BSNA and Paycor and other items like that, and we're working with PACE. So we're transitioning the last of the staff over to that in the coming month. But it's a great system that's made payroll and managing and time approvals and hour banks, and it automatically updates. All you do is put in the information that is prescribed in the union contract, and if it's going to be, you know, okay, you receive 3 hours for, you know, every 40 hours worked, you know, that's pretty generous, I'd say, but for example purposes, it can do that automatically. It can build these retentions that, you know, otherwise it was done with paper and pencil prior.
Okay. At this time, do you have any questions for the council?
Yes, I do have a couple questions for the council. I noticed that just in the posting, it didn't have any, as I seen, like outlined timeline, as it might be. What would the timeline be for this posting to bring in a new manager, as it might be?
We're looking pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. With the benefits package, it does indicate that it is a robust package, as it might be. Can you allude to whether the healthcare plan is an 80-20 plan, hard cap, what it kind of looks like?
The healthcare plan?
Oh, it is, it's 70/30.
70-30 plan?
Yes. However, in healthcare, depending upon the type of plan you elect, you can pay up to 30%. There are many employees that are paying as little as 5%.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so it's a cafeteria style plan, not a set plan. Not a set plan as it might be for all employees. It's cafeteria style. You can kind of pick it up. Okay. Excellent. So I know that there are two positions that you are also currently looking for as it relates to building and DPW director. I understand that the DPW director is set to be retiring, as it might be here by the end of the month. Building up a succession plan for him, does council already have a wake of candidates as it might be to where an incoming person could assist with that process? Or is that something that is going to be outstanding until the position is filled?
Yeah, what we've done is, our acting city manager has, they've put, deputy directors in place.
Okay.
And then waiting for the city manager to be able to make that appointment.
Excellent, thank you. As it relates to the contract itself, it sounds like the prior administrator was a contract employee, or the prior manager was a contract employee instead of a general employee. With this position, is it appointed? Is it generally a contractual basis? How does it work here with the city of Wayne?
We've done it both ways. It just worked out that way for that particular person that was worked out the best for them.
Okay.
But it opened that in negotiation.
Excellent.
In the conversation.
And the last thing was, I noticed that there is a defined benefit contribution option as it relates to the healthcare DB plan. It's a 10-year vesting at a 1.5% for MERS, and I understand that, again, there may be an opportunity for a DC plan or defined contribution plan if someone wishes to seek that route as well.
Yes.
There is, yes, there's an option for a defined contribution versus defined benefit, yes.
Okay, and does that have a labeled match to it or no?
That's a application.
Okay, understood. Other than that, I guess my last question for you is there any further questions or expectations that you would look to have, from someone who's going to be fitting this chair for the city of Wayne?
So I just have one question to kind of wrap. What did we not ask you that you think we should know?
Simply put, I am here for the, mayor and council. I'm here for the city. I am a individual who wants to, work with everyone. And I don't know if I've made that abundantly clear or not. But I am going to be here in the office. That's what I like to do. I'm not, I'm not a remote worker in a large capacity. Of course, I'll be sending emails at all hours of the day as it relates to the job. But I'm also going to be in and about the community. I want to be as involved as possible. So if a random day where a council member may come in and be like, oh, where's the manager at? Oh, he's at a meeting with our representative, or he's at a meeting with someone else. Like, I'm going to try to make those connections and make those relationships immediately. So as much as of course I want to be in the office, I'm going to want to be engaged and out and learning and doing the most I can, spreading the net as far as it can go. So I won't always be in the chair, but I will always be around, as it might be. I'm just not going to be an MIA manager.
As far as community involvement goes,
Yes.
how active are you going to be with federal holidays in the city? Things like the 4th of July, Memorial Day.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
As far as being actively involved after hours, how involved will you be with things like the 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day?
So those are some major holidays as it relates to us, as well as Christmas they got coming up. So December 2nd is a Saturday. I plan to be around all day. We have a community parade, as it might be. Our recreation director is going to need help down at the community center. I'm going to lend that helping hand wherever I can. Just because it's not in my job description doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. I will be involved in the community. There's community events. I want to be a part of them. I think that's pivotal in any person's position with the city, is investing yourself into it. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's simply not. As everyone here on the dais knows, it's when you're needed. sometimes. And, you know, with the tornado, I was needed at 11 p.m. With upcoming parade, I'll be out there at 4:30, 5 o'clock after hours, working, making sure the DPW has what they need, making sure the fire chief is equipped, making sure we have extra support if we need it from our area neighbors, as we are a mutual aid program with the Downriver Community Conference. We will be, just again doing that neighborly thing, as it might be. We're going to be. We offered the neighboring city of Flat Rock our fire truck for 2 hours, as they're going to be taking theirs around and doing presents with Santa on the fire truck for one of their community events. So it's not only just investing in the community of Wayne, but it's the surrounding area. You have Romulus to yourself. You got the airport. You have so many different assets that surround the community that help embolden the community. So being involved in working together to do so is something that's incredibly important.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you. This concludes our time. We appreciate you coming in, and
Yes, thank you all.
Yep, thank you.
Nice meeting you, Mr. Landis.
Yes, nice meeting you. Very nice to meet all of you.
Thanks.
Drive safely.
Madam Clerk, before we go on, we have a total of 9 speakers, and there's no sound coming out of the ceiling at all.
Hello.
Hi.
Through the chair, if we could have whoever's phone is going off, phone off during the meeting, that'd be awesome.
Do what?
Turn off the phone on here.
Yeah, if there's anybody that has their phones that are on, please silence them. You all set? Okay. Everybody ready? I just want to welcome you to the city of Wayne, Brad. What we're going to do is we're going to have about 50 minutes of questions, and then the last 10 minutes, we're going to let you ask any questions that you may have, and then make a closing statement about what your thoughts are. Or what you want us, something that maybe that we don't know that you want to make sure that you can tell us.
Okay.
So I guess we're going to go ahead and start with Mayor Pro Tem Brock.
Good evening. Thanks for coming to see us today.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
The city of Wayne needs to engage community members much more. Not only for volunteer efforts, of course, but to participate in the working of the government. What would you do to increase citizen participation in our local government?
Okay, I've most recently been working with the Grand Traverse County Road Commission, and we had a very similar problem because you are responsible for roads within the townships. The townships don't actually own the roads. So to get the township and the township constituents involved, I started going out and meeting with a lot of the civic groups, as well as meeting at all of the township meetings. So I would quarterly hit every township. We had 13 townships. So at least quarterly, I would be at each of the township meetings and try and get in touch with people that were out in that form of government. But I also did a lot of outreach with Rotary to talk to them, and the Salvation Army, which had a good organization set up for homeless people. So we tried to, get them involved, because those are people that were very interested, as well as our parks the county parks, because a lot of those people also had some. But I think, you know, you have to be in touch with everybody, and the schools are a very important part too. If you can get the schools involved, start talking to people at the schools, getting them interested, and having the kids get out. Because if the kids see you, they're gonna talk to their parents, and you're gonna start getting more interaction between the two of them. Thank you. Sure.
Councilman Dowd?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna go with, number 2, Lazinski, correct?
Kluczynski, it's fine.
Kluch-
And
okay,
everyone
fine.
called me Kay, that's it.
Okay.
So,
All right. I'm going to go with question number 2. From your resume, it appears you have a career filled with many accomplishments. Tell us about 2 of which you're most proud of.
I will start with the most recent one at the Road Commission. I went into the Road Commission when they had a kind of issue between the staff that was in the maintenance area and the engineering. And I spent a lot of time working together with both departments to get them to understand that both of them have to be looking at these roads from the same perspective. And by the time we were done with that, we actually had a very good interaction, and they were actually willing to build roads that were easily maintainable. Because a lot of times engineers, they see what it would look like, but they don't necessarily see the maintenance headaches that could come from it. So we spent a lot of time interacting and building these teams so that anytime a road project would come up, you would have somebody from the field operations folks as well as someone from the engineering. So that was one of them that I was very pleased with at the Road Commission. When I was in Ann Arbor, I was there for the longest portion of my career, 23 years almost. And at that point, we had started an asset management plan. And we, over the course of about 18 years, put together a comprehensive asset management plan for everything the city of Ann Arbor owns, from buildings to parks to swing sets in the parks to build to, you know, anything they own. Roads especially were very expensive. They still are, so you've got to make sure you're maintaining them as long as you possibly can. And as we moved forward through that process, we computerized everything. So we got to a point where we were using a work order management system to be able to deal with customer concerns as well as how we specify what maintenance gets done as we move forward. So those were 2 big ones that I was involved with substantially.
Thank you.
I was very happy with.
Thank you. Councilman Ross?
So we have been fortunate to have a really great grant writer with us for a while, and I wondered how successful you've been at securing grants, and look forward to hearing what if you had any plans for grants for this city.
What number is that?
That would be 17.
Okay.
Okay, I have, when I was in Ann Arbor, I did substantial grant writing for maintenance projects. Did a lot of grants that obtained for us monies from using recycled products in a lot of different things. So I had a lot of experience doing the actual grant writing for those and getting substantial chunks of money for projects. Some of them were like $250,000, $300,000 for a maintenance project, which was a huge addition for the maintenance that's needed on the road systems. Since I've been at the Road Commission is, a lot of it is federal discretionary fund grants, and I was not really specifically in on the writing of them, but I was in the review of them, and I have also done a lot of the research to find out where the grants are, because there's a surprisingly large number of grants out there, especially with the new Infrastructure Act that Biden passed with the JAAS, or however that is, AJJS. So that there's a lot of road funding, a lot of water funding, a lot of sewer funding, a lot of high-speed internet funding, a lot of different things that we've used in the Grand Traverse County to get stuff taken care of.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilman Mulholland?
This is question, excuse me, this is question number 16. There's many strategies for economic and community development. As you reviewed data and toured the city of Wayne, what do you see as our most pressing development issue, and what approach might you suggest for it?
Well, I did take a nice long ride through the city today, and I did see, one of the things, you do have a few roads that are in pretty rough shape. And from my experience, based on especially commercial properties and areas that have need for truck traffic coming in and out, if you have roads that are in bad shape, it's problematic. So you have to be able to take care of that. And if you want to build into your community a commercial zone, having it look nice is also very important. So when I was with Ann Arbor, we did a very large project with the DDA that really improved the streetscapes and made it more appetizing for people to be in that area. It set up a lot of areas where you could eat outside in the evenings during the summer. And they also had, we put together things that you could block off sections of road. Not the major roads, but you could block off a section of road to have activities down there to build in that commercial support. Because you have to obviously have support from the city to help those commercial buildings be occupied and be successful. And I notice you also have quite a bit of industry. So obviously, there's concern there where you have to start communicating with them and seeing, okay, do we need to do something different? Do we need to make some accommodations potentially to get traffic flowing for them? Or is there a way to potentially set up an area that they could have some additional access points into some of the buildings? Because I see, the railroad is obviously still active because I got stopped by it today. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential for industrial, and especially with some of the programs that Whitmer's put together with some of the industrial growth, there's some opportunities there also. So.
Okay, Councilman Clearman?
Number 21, how will you handle it if it appears that council or an individual elected official may be heading down a path with unintended consequences or liabilities? Better yet, if you faced that situation before, tell us the story of what happened, how you handled it.
Well, I've got a couple of examples. Ann Arbor was a very hands-on council. And when I was there, there was a road that really needed to be improved substantially, and it needed to be better configured to support the VA hospital, which was being built at the time. And so it was a road that went through a fairly sensitive area. And the original idea was, well, we can't really change anything. But the problem with that is you couldn't build the road to meet modern standards. And so we had to go out and do a lot of detailed work to collect data to show what the problems were. And we had to talk to the council members individually to talk to them to say, this is why you can't have this way. And we ended up talking it through, and we ended up making some pretty substantial changes. Yes, it was a little bit environmentally concerning for them, and they are very, concerned with the environment. So it took a little while to go through it, but you have to make sure that you're not building something, because the road that they were going to build was going to be about 15%, which is absolutely too steep. I mean, you're talking about a road then when you're trying to get ambulances down it, if it's snowy, they're not going to be able to stop. So you can't have that type of situation. I also had one recently here when I was with the road commission, and they were interested in trying to improve drainage in certain neighborhoods. But the road commission law is very specific that anything you do has to be done within the right of way. But they wanted us to go out and start moving beyond the right of way to get the culverts wider and farther out away from the roads so that you could do some better drainage through there. And unfortunately, you know, they did not understand that just because the road is part of that, it does not mean that we can make the entire improvement. And so it took a long time to go through all the details, and it's still not 100% resolved, but the drainage has been improved within the right-of-way. Now it is something that the drain commissioner has to go into and deal with the rest of it for it.
Thank you.
Okay. This is question number 20. What is the most important skill or talent a manager can have when it comes to council-manager relationships? Can you tell us a time when you had to rely on that skill to build or improve relationships?
Well, I think communication is the key. It's always the communication. You have to be in contact with each of the council members or board members, whichever it is, so that you're talking to them and explaining to them where you're coming from and why there's this issue that needs to be resolved. And I think a lot of it comes in what I did when I was at the road commission. I put in a section of the meeting which was simply called manager's comments. So in addition to talking to the council members individually or the board members individually, I was also then at each board meeting going over some of the things so that as a board together could hear it all and then start deliberation to see if they wanted to change anything. So you've got to have that communication, and you've got to make sure that if there's one person that has something that's off, you still want to make sure that you're talking to the rest to make sure that everybody else is on the same page. Because if one person raises a concern, there's a very real possibility that there's a concern from others. So it's 100% communication continuously. And my thing was every Thursday in the afternoon or Friday in the morning, depending on the board member, I would call them and say, okay, this is what happened this week. This is what's going on. What do you have, any concerns? Do you have anything that I need to be aware of that needs to happen in the next week so we can get it scheduled?
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
This is question number 25. This has to deal with other workers. So how do you encourage and compliment your staff when they do a good job for you or someone else that they work with?
Well, number one, realistically, the manager's not doing much of the work. So you have to recognize the people. I come from a schooling that was at the time basically transformational leadership, which is trying to build the skill sets of the people. And now it's I've kind of been attending some classes on servant leadership, trying to get that whole concept together to get the entire staff to buy in. And it has to be everybody. You can't just go to the top few people and talk to them. You need to be able to talk to every single person that you have that's under you. And I talk to everybody as much as possible. I put out a lot of different messages out to people to make sure everybody knew it. And when people did a good job, we recognized them. Because there are people out there that if they don't get the recognition, they may start feel like they're not being appreciated. Others may keep going, but you want to make sure that everybody is recognizing every single person, from the first person that just started last week all the way up to the most senior person has something to offer to the organization. And you have to make sure that you're dealing with that and talking to them and letting them know that, yes, we appreciate it, and soliciting that feedback from them. Because I've had a lot of information come from people out on the crews that I never heard from supervisors, because they're out there every day seeing it, and we change pieces of equipment to recognize that. So I think that's really what it needs to be.
Councilman Dowd?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go with question number 4. Probably the shortest question on here, but very open-ended. If selected, what will your first 3 months look like here at the city?
You got to get to know your people and what their capabilities are. So you've got to make sure you start talking to the direct reports first and start getting exactly what it is that they are doing, what they're expecting from me, and what I need to expect from them. And then looking to help them gain the needed, anything needed to make their job more successful and more efficient. So that would be the biggest thing, I think, is just getting to know everybody and making sure that everybody is on the same page and making sure that, hey, is there something wrong or something different that can be done? And then starting to move down to the layers throughout and start having meetings with them. Also, you need to start meeting your community members, the people that are in other agencies, your surrounding neighbors, your townships, and your cities that border around you here. Because everybody you hear has something, and you're trying to build a system that works for the entire region. You don't want a specific area. You want to make sure that you're talking to them too, to say, hey, these are how we want to improve things. What can you do to get some things to tie into us? And I've worked with SEMCOG in the past. When I was in Ann Arbor, we did a lot of stuff where we would sit down with the Washtenaw County folks, and we'd sit down and everybody would meet in a room and sit down and say, okay, these are the biggest priorities that we see, and start comparing them as far what does it mean to the city of Wayne, what the neighbors need. Is there anything that can be done that can be a good interaction and potentially save money by doing 2 projects across jurisdictional lines at the same time? Because a lot of your expense is going to be for mobilization. So.
Okay. Councilwoman Wass?
So I'm gonna go with question 11. From what you've learned of us, what do you think our 2 biggest challenges will be in the next 3 years, and how would you tackle them, and what processes would you follow?
Well, you're in a fully developed, pretty much, community. I did notice there are very few open spaces. So if you are trying to deal with some of the problems that are occurring with housing, I think that's one of the issues right now. Housing is becoming ridiculously expensive no matter what. And there's not like you have a lot of land that you can start doing anything with. So I think you need to look at, okay, are there options? Are there other ways we can deal with housing issues in this area? Because I know I have actually 2 friends of mine, they just bought a house on Niagara, just down the road from here. And they were fortunate enough that they could get in and buy it before the interest rates went real high. But if it had been at today's interest rates, they couldn't have done it. It's just, the cost of housing. So I think you have to start looking at what are options, and is there anything that can be done to assist to get better housing density, or maybe you sit down with the planning commission and the council and say, okay, what can we do to change some of these things, or should we be changing some of these things, or are we content with where we are right now? And that's something that it's not a decision of the manager to do that, but the manager needs to be able to present the information that's out there as far as what type of things can be done. And then the second thing is making sure that you don't have a dying commercial corridor, because the commercial corridors, we saw it in Traverse City. The price of rent for a commercial building got to the point where now people just aren't renting in downtown. They've moved outside and they've gone somewhere else. So you have a lot of empty fronts, which never used to be the case in Traverse City. Traverse City was always a place that people wanted to be. Well, when your rent's 3/4 of your expense, it's kind of hard to deal with. So a lot of people have moved out. So you got to make sure that you're doing things to support your commercial growth too, to make sure that as a whole, the community stays fiscally sound so that you have that revenue to be able to make the repairs and keep your infrastructure up to where it needs to be. Because no building lasts forever, and definitely the roads do not either. So you're gonna have to deal with that, and you have to have the revenue to deal with it.
Councilman Mulholland?
We all have strengths and we all have areas that we need to improve upon. Can you tell me about what your areas that you find are your biggest strengths, and then the areas that you probably could use some work strengthening?
I think
What was the number on that?
That's not on any of the list.
That's what I thought. Okay.
okay. As far as strengths, I consider myself to be a very strong person when it comes to asset management and cost savings. Looking at the long term is a huge thing for me. I continuously am looking out many, many years, sometimes even 20, 25 years, to determine what type of solutions need to be done so that you can keep a balanced budget, as opposed to having, okay, this year we need another $2 million because we didn't think about that. So that's one of my things that I'm really good at. I've been doing it for so long, it's just one of those things I can kind of feel comfortable and deal with. I think one of my things that I do need more to deal with is trying to get some of the issues settled with the DDA and everything else. We're trying to get savings, and you're trying to get projects together. And it seems like, in my experience at least, trying to deal with some of the DDAs and the people that have some money, and you're trying to get them to buy in, it's getting some of that buy-in that still is always tough. If it's coming out of their pocket, they're gonna have an issue. If it's not coming out of their pocket, they're all about it. They're ready to go, no problem. But trying to get some of that financial buy-in is something that I think is something always needing to be improved. You always have to keep working harder and harder at that as finances become pretty much tight for everybody. So.
Councilman Clearman?
Number 6, when we call on employees who you've worked with over the years, what will they tell us about you? Tell us one phrase the employees or your peers would use that your bosses or elected officials would not.
Right, let me make sure. You want to know what the employees would say about me versus what the elected officials?
Yeah, what your employees or peers would say about you, that
Okay.
your boss or elected official would not.
Well, one of my supervisors, who was right under me, one of my direct reports, when he and I talked last as I was leaving the road commission, he told me that I was the best boss he'd ever had, simply because I listened, and I always listened. And I think you would hear that from pretty much all the people. I have every single person that worked for me on my cell phone, and I take calls, and I'm open, and they are very happy with that. They come to me, they talk to me about things that aren't even work related, because they just want to talk about something. So I think that's something you would see from the employees, that I am very open and very willing to talk, and they would say that pretty much across the board. And the board itself, I mean, I worked with them, but I don't think they saw it as something that was going above and beyond necessarily, because, well, you've got to respond to them. So they probably wouldn't realize just how many hours I spent after hours talking to people, or during, Saturdays, calling people on the phone and talking to them, so.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Could you talk to us a bit about your use of technology as a tool for greater operational efficiency and as an effective communication and citizen engagement tool?
Well, we used, the program we used was CityWorks. I used it in Ann Arbor, and because of that, we looked at it closely for the road commission, and we used that there. And it's a system that is GIS based, for everything, and it tracks everything you do, so that when you do a work order and you go out and you say, okay, this sign needed to be replaced. Well, there's a difference between, and people who aren't in the field probably don't recognize, a south-facing sign has to be replaced far more often than a north-facing sign, because the sun fades the sign. So by putting that in, you have a different time frame of when these signs get replaced. Same thing with pavement markings. If it's being plowed more often, you need to stripe more often. So these type of things, you put it into the system, and it sets a reminder based on what the criteria is, which direction is it facing, what's the traffic volume. And it's set up based on criteria that we develop to say, this is how long it's gonna last, this is what we need to do, and oh, this is also the best product because of the type of area you're talking about. So we use that a lot. It also tracks all of the citizen requests. So if we start seeing a lot of requests for different areas, for similar things, then we realize, hey, we need to go out there and look at the entire area. So we had, one of the issues was, we have a lot of beavers that dam up creeks. It's amazing how fast they can do it. But we ended up finding that because of these complaints, we had a area that was shown clearly in the GIS, and we had to get the DNR to allow us to go out and trap, because they were plugging drains every couple of weeks. I mean, they'd be there, you'd clear it, you'd have to go back. And that's not cost effective. Trying to send somebody out that often, it's an expensive process, and it's non-value added maintenance. And I try to stress this to everybody. When you start looking at that software, you are trying to use value added maintenance on everything you do. Because with value added maintenance, you're actually moving forward, as opposed to just trying to fix, like fixing a pothole is not value added maintenance. Putting an overlay on a road is value added maintenance. You're extending the life. Fixing a pothole doesn't extend the life, it just fixes an emergency need.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
One of the issues that we encounter right now is moving on with our financial difficulties. And this is number 12, question number 12. What size budgets have you been responsible for in the past? And what are you uniquely bringing to the table in this finance arena that will help us move forward while maintaining or attaining long-term financial stability?
Well, let's start with my budget size. This year's budget was 37 million. It's typically been anywhere from 30 to, this was the highest, 37. But a lot of that was a new facility that we're building. So one of the things that I've always looked at with it is, okay, where are your main cost center expenses? And starting to figure out, okay, is it better to do something changing here, or is it something you can't change? Obviously, some of your costs are fixed costs. Your labor cost is your labor cost. You have union contracts that have to be paid out at a certain rate. You have people that are employees that are going to be making a certain amount. So you have to start looking at, well, how can you start trying to get some savings by maybe accomplishing more? And one of the things that I did when I was at with the Road Commission recently is we started getting into an agreement with the city of Traverse City, because the city of Traverse City has totally different needs than we do. So they aren't very good at dealing with gravel roads. Well, the Road Commission had a lot of gravel roads. City has a few. So we would do their gravel roads, but we didn't have anything that needed to be, we didn't have many roads that needed to be swept. They had a lot of curb and gutter streets that needed to be swept. So they were gonna sweep all of our roads, and we were gonna grade their gravels. So I think, you gotta start looking at, how do you get savings by potentially partnering with others? And that's a huge thing, because, every single city has unique needs. But if there's something you can find from a neighbor, or even somebody who's 5 miles, 10 miles down, that they could come in and help you with, that's a huge thing, because you've got to be able to do that. And I think that whole thing, like I go back to that asset management, where you're talking about, this is the expense you need. You've got to be able to balance it with what monies you have, but you got to make sure that you're maintaining what you have. And it's like if you look at your house, I mean, if your roof starts going bad, you're going to replace the roof, because if you don't, the house is going to fall apart. So there's things that you have to look at, and the cost savings in the long run have to be evaluated. And that's one of the things, it's an opportunity cost on a lot of things, where you have, okay, we could do this or we could do that. So if you do this, what's the opportunity you're missing over here? Are we gonna have something that the opportunity that we miss is going to cost more in the long run? Or is it something that we can put off for a year? So looking at it that way, so that you're looking at where is that expense going to go? Is it gonna go up drastically, or is it a failed road is a failed road? So if you leave behind a failed road, it's not gonna make the neighbors happy, but it's gonna make the cost of fixing other roads cheaper, because the higher you keep them on that deduct curve, the lower the cost is to keep them there. So there's a lot of things, and it's the same thing with a lot of buildings and parks. I mean, all these things have expenses, and you have to hit them at that optimal range. So, does that answer what you were asking?
Exactly, thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Dowd?
Thank you. Brad, you hit the more than halfway mark in your time. The bottle of water is complimentary if you want to take a drink. You've been doing a lot of talking, and I wanted to give you that. Take a deep breath, and before I ask a really hard question. I'm gonna go with number 7. When hiring a new employee to join and strengthen your team, what personality or character attributes are you looking for, and why?
Obviously, their skills are a huge thing, but you have to review how the rest of your staff interacts. I did, early on in my career, made the mistake of hiring somebody that was impeccably qualified, but he just could not get along with the staff. And so it was one of those things, he was doing great work, but he was bringing the rest of the organization down. My staff couldn't work with him, couldn't deal with him. So when I look at that, I think a lot of the thing is matching personalities, or at least non-conflicting personalities, is huge. You'll find that as you have a choice of employees, it's a lot easier. If you're struggling to find a certain person for a certain job, sometimes you have to say, okay, well, we need this skill, and we need to make sure, and then you hopefully can find a way to have somebody that can interact with them better, but that's never an ideal situation. I mean, you obviously want somebody who gets along, and then the other thing with it is, you want somebody that is also going to be willing to talk to people outside of business things, because when you start building relationships between employees where they have a interaction with the rest of their fellow employees that is not only a work relationship, that's huge. Our end of fall type activity for the road commission, we do everybody brings their classic cars out, and they bring it to our yard, and we set up, and we all sit there, we grill out, and all the supervisors do all the cooking and all the cleaning, and none of the workers have to do a thing except for sit there and eat and show off their cars. So, you want to find stuff that people can get together, because then they meet people, and now I've got people that are, hey, I see them on the outside of this, and I can start reacting and relating to them so that they don't feel like they're out of their way to ask a question. And I think that's another thing, is just to make sure that, you know, you can find these people and you can tell if they're going to be somebody who can work with the rest of your staff. It's a big responsibility for management to hire people that are not disruptive. That's a huge problem. That can destroy everybody else's morale way too quick. So you've got to make sure that that's where you're focused.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilman Ross?
So I'm gonna go with the question 8. Are you more of a leader or a manager? Tell us why the descriptor informs the kind of administrator you are.
I am definitely more of a leader, because I am of the mindset that I have people that work for me that have a specialized skill that I may not have. And most likely, in a lot of areas, I don't have. So I need to get them built up and get them developed to a point where they are comfortable making decisions on a certain point. So like, if there's a massive thing that they really are a little bit nervous about, yes, they can come to me. But for a lot of the smaller details, you got to build them up so that they're comfortable making those decisions from the right, whether it be right or wrong. And if they make a wrong decision, you can't go after them and berate them for it. You have to say, okay, this is why it was wrong. This is what we'd rather do. This is why we'd rather do it. And get them built to the point where eventually, in theory, they make fewer and fewer mistakes and become more and more valuable to the team as a whole.
Councilman Mulholland?
It's okay.
Excuse me. I wanted to go with question number 1. Tell us why you want to be the city manager in the city of Wayne, and point out to us what particular skills and experience you have that'll make you a good fit for us. You know, not just as a city manager, but what would make you a good fit particularly for the city of Wayne?
Well, while I grew up in northern Michigan, I did come to U of M, and I attended school at U of M before starting to work for the city of Ann Arbor. So I'm very familiar with the area, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law live down just in Ypsilanti, and they're getting up there in age. So I am looking to get something that is in the area for me. I mean, to be honest, I want to be down here so I can help them, because they're not going to be able to do things on their own as the next few years start coming along. So I really want to be able to help them out as much as possible, as well as the fact that, I know Wayne. Like, when I first told my wife I was applying for this, she said, "You want to work for Wayne County?" I said, "No, the city of Wayne. There's a huge difference." But I know, because, like I said, I have friends who recently bought a house here, that it's a nice area. It's a small community feel, as you said in your own posting, it's a small community feel. And they are very, very much in love with where they've moved to. They can't imagine being anywhere else now, because they've already met their neighbors, they talk, they have picnics, they do things. So I think, for me, this is a perfect area, because I grew up in Charlevoix, which is a very small community, but had nothing around it. I moved back up north after I left Ann Arbor, simply because at the time, my dad needed some help, and now he's actually better, but that's good. He can deal with his stuff on his own, so I now feel like I can help them. And I like the small community feel. So it's not like a 135,000 person city like I was in Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor was crazy, because there was always too many things to do and never enough time to do it, because you had just so many things going on with the university and everything else. And I like the idea that really is a smaller community feel than what a lot of the cities around here are.
Councilman Clareman?
This one's not on the list. Looking at your work experience, I see a gap between operations specialist and engineering inspector. One ends in May 2014, the other one begins in April 2015. I'd like to hear what happened during that time. And also, how long do you expect to be city manager here for?
Okay. Well, the gap was because my son got married. He had a boy. And then his wife decided they were going to move to Alabama. And it immediately went south. And so he moved back up and he moved into our house with us, with his, at the time, 1.5-year-old son. So I was at a point where I had finished my project, my huge asset management project that I had been working on for 18 years in Ann Arbor, and I decided it was time for me to leave because I didn't want to get into something in Ann Arbor for another 18 years trying to get stuff taken care of, because at that point I had had my fill of being in Ann Arbor. I mean, it was a long, long time. I enjoyed a lot of the work, but it was very much a hands-on council that you had to meet the expectations of everybody. It wasn't like you could listen to the board as a whole. You had to listen to everybody, otherwise they'd be on you all the time. So I took that year off and I watched my grandson for an entire year, which was an absolutely phenomenal experience. It was the best thing I could have done, but at the end of a year, I realized, you know what? It's great in moderation, but not every day. So I had to start going back into work. And at that point, I had decided I was going to get back into school and get my business degrees, which I got my bachelor's and then I got my master's back to back and finished those out. And that's when I started saying, you know, because I wanted to get back into work and I wanted to do something. Now, my grandson, he's going to be 15 here soon. He still lives with me, funny enough, but that's the way it is. But I fully expect to work, assuming council would have me, for at least 15 years. Because that would put me at Social Security retirement age or very close. So I would expect to be at least 15 years. And if it's something that's still working, great. I mean, I'm not looking to move again if I don't have to. I just want to be employed and enjoying my work. And assuming everybody else here is happy with me, I could see 15 years easily.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Guess what I'm going to do with, let's look at, ask one more question. This is question 22. What did it look like the last time an elected official, employee, or resident tried to push you to change a position you were holding? What determines when you hold your ground versus switching directions?
We had a former county commissioner resident on a road that was being reconstructed this summer. And we were putting in, it was on a pretty steep hill, so we were putting in spillways to keep the water controlled, going down an asphalt curb road and then spilling off into certain very specific locations so that it wasn't washing out the hill like it had been before we did this. He was very upset because the spillway that we had put in was going to spill in, go through a large grass area, and then go into the stream that goes through his property. And he has a blocked off area where he dug a pond and he put the pond on his property. That stream enters it, keeps his water level going, and then spills out and continues out onto Duck Lake. So he was very upset that we were going to be doing this because he felt that the road salt would go into his pond and damage it. So went out there and I looked at it and I was not going to change. I was pretty certain it was going to be exactly where it was. So went out there and I looked at it and I said, okay, well, what exactly is your concern? And we discussed it, and I ended up going in and I ended up changing my mind and I moved it. It cost less than $1,000 to move it, and it became a better solution for him as well as for the way it worked, because that then gave us a little bit further where we could go without needing any more spillways. So it ended up being something that I was willing to change my mind on. And it wasn't necessarily that it was against policy to move it. It was just the fact that, you know, I had a lot of confidence that the engineers had done exactly what they should have, and they did. But to move it and to make it more community user friendly, we moved it just down the way so it would spill out into the grass that would move out away from the stream. So, and I've had many there. I've had to hold my ground too, but
Do you have any questions for the council?
well, you asked me, you know, what would my first 3 months look like? So I'd like to ask you, what would your first year, what would your priorities be first year from a manager as they step into this role? What are the biggest concerns that you think that need to be addressed first?
Well, I think one of the main things is finding a revenue stream for our community. We have a shortfall every year, and we've been unable to find that so far. So I know that that's a ongoing thing. You know, working towards building our pensions up even more. I know that that's a thing that all of us, I mean, we're doing better than we were. We're in a better position than we were a number of years ago, but there's still, we're spending more money than what we have coming in, and so you're gonna have a shortfall at some time. So I think that that's a big thing. I think we have a bunch of goals and ideas that the council's come together. They've been actually sitting on a shelf a little bit, waiting for a new city manager. We were starting to have those discussions, and just felt it was better to try to hold off and wait till the next person came in so we can work on those types of things. But you know, that's the big things, I would think.
Okay. So was it developed through like a strategic planning type session, or was it just the council was just kind of putting it all together themselves?
So myself and the mayor pro tem at the time met with council members individually, and we created a list. And then we were starting to come back in and discussing that, where I think we want to, I think it would be best to bring somebody else in to help us facilitate that, because it's hard to facilitate this when you're part of the goals and trying to figure out what that is. So trying to figure out where we go from that aspect.
Because I just finished a strategic plan in February, and we were finishing up the implementation and the rollout of what the year by year projects are gonna be. So that's good to know that there's at least something looking forward there.
Well, and I guess, I mean, another big thing is that we've got money that came in. We have lead lines that have to be replaced throughout the community. And so that implementation, that project is gonna be, you know, a big project for the upcoming year.
Yeah, well, I'm well aware of that. I dealt with that even before it became a mandate in Elk Rapids as the DPW superintendent there. And we replaced a lot of lead service lines. And that was before they made you take it all the way to the house. They just made you take the lead gooseneck out. But we had a lot of people that said, hey, if you're taking it out, just replace the whole thing.
Yeah. And the good thing is we have the funding in place now, where we were trying to get the funding before. So the funding's there. It's now the implementation with that. And then the hiring of the director for the building and engineering and DPW it will be one of the first things the manager will be tasked with doing. Yes.
I'd also like to add, economic development, I think, is something the city of Wayne is always looking to improve upon. You know, our downtown corridor can always be strengthened, and so we're probably looking for some direction in that area too. We've got a great department and a great DDA that's working in that direction. But of course, having a manager that brings some experience and can provide some additional support there, I think is something also.
Yeah, and my councilwoman also, we have an issue with our amphitheater. We're in the process of rebuilding it where we found an issue with a water reservoir that's underneath it and trying to figure out all those issues and find out where we get the additional funding. We have over just about $1.5 million to, not 1.5, 1.1-ish to fix it. That was supposed to develop it, but we don't have a way to fix the hole now that underneath it that has to be addressed. So that'll be another major task that'll have to be accomplished.
Can I pop in for a minute?
Yep.
What I see for the next year, for myself and working with anyone that takes your position and amongst my fellow council members, is to find a way to differentiate Wayne, and you've already seen it yourself when you drove in. I was attracted to the place similar to your friends when I first saw it. I knew that there was something different about it, but to differentiate it to our neighbors who are unaware of that right now, and also to continue our work, and as the mayor had said, with the goals is to develop policy, working with the city manager and developing something so that we can do our work as the manager runs the city.
Okay. Yeah, we were in the process of finishing a total policy review at the road commission, because there were policies that were 25 years old. And it's kind of hard to function on a 25-year-old policy when things have changed so much.
Yeah, and just to add to your question about the city does have a master plan in place, or recently implemented a master plan, and our building engineering does have a 30-year outlook plan too, so there is a map.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that we do need,
Not always the money.
I'd say the other thing that we need to, that needs to be addressed, that I hear from council, and our charter has never been updated since it was, so it's very outdated and needs to be revised, and maybe a charter committee or a committee to work on it, and then put a charter committee, but that's something that's gonna be in the next year to 2 years. That's a pressing thing that's gonna have to get accomplished at some point. Was there anything that you felt that you wanted to share with us that you didn't get to talk about?
Well, I have been in government in different areas for most of my career. I mean, other than side jobs that I took on where I worked for an excavating firm just because I liked to work and I was busy. Other than that, my career has always been in government. I feel I have a pretty good knowledge of all of the laws that apply. And I would definitely enjoy being here. It'd be so convenient for me. So, but also, like I said, I do appreciate the thing, and you have a lot of good things already in place. I see, you've got a pretty good industrial base, and you've got some areas, but you've got some roads that need some work too. And, talking through that and seeing how can you deal with it as a city, to get some roads that are in a little bit worse shape repaired. There's a lot of things that I think I could definitely be an asset for you. And I was involved with the starting phase of turning one of the townships in Grand Traverse County into a charter township, because it's a huge difference for townships as to what they can do before they're a charter, and then what they can do as a charter township. So I understand there's legal things that need to be considered also, but yes, I would definitely be very comfortable dealing with that.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in and meeting with us.
No problem, thank you.
You're welcome. And we're,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
so we're gonna take a 5-minute break at this point. I just said we're having a 5-minute break.
Calisthenics.
Mohammed Eyoub. Got it?
AU, yes. perfect.
Ayoub.
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, thanks.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with about 45, 50 minutes of questions, then let you ask any question that you have of us, and then follow up with whatever type of things that you felt like we didn't cover or you wanted to share with us at the end.
Okay, thanks.
Okay? And I'm going to kick it off with Councilman Dowd's going to ask you the first question tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm going first?
You are.
Wow. Okay.
I turned my mic on. All right, yeah, I wasn't expecting to go first, but I'll start with question number one. Tell us why you want to be the city manager in the city of Wayne, and point out what particular skills and experiences you possess that make you a good fit for us.
Sure. First off, thank you for having me here. I know it's a few hours out of your day today and tomorrow, and it's getting pretty late, so I just wanted to thank you for that. Why do I want to be the city manager of the city of
Can
Wayne?
you do me a favor,
Yes, sir.
just move that mic a little closer, because
Sure, yes. No problem.
it's,
Sure.
we have it going on, but I think it's the Wi-Fi
Okay.
mic that you have in hand.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so I have been working for this type of position for the past couple years. I just graduated from the University of Michigan from the Ford School with a public affairs degree in hopes of becoming a city manager somewhere, not necessarily here in the city of Wayne. However, this position opened up. I don't know. I saw it a few weeks ago, so I applied in early November. Why does Wayne attract my attention? Because it's right next to the city that I work for. We share boundaries. We know many of the same people. I've worked with the mayor on some things. I've worked with your former city manager, Lisa Nocerini, on some things, including some grants. We know some of the same business people that do business in the same communities. I have been fortunate to work with Ford Land and Ford Motor Company in the city of Dearborn during their R&E development and some of their downtown development in West Dearborn. So I'm excited to potentially open that door back up if the opportunity allows here in Wayne. I also worked with MDOT as an employee and with the city of Dearborn for Michigan Avenue, both east and west downtown, and I know that there's a similar opportunity here. So those are some of the things that attracted me to this position. I'm very comfortable working for the city of Westland, and I think that the city of Wayne offers similar experiences, opportunities, engagements, and conversations. And I truly want to advance my career and move on into a city management type role. Again, that's why I went to school and busted my butt for 2 years while working full-time with 2 children.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Was.
Okay, so question number 5. Wayne is a small community with unique personalities and solid traditions. What should every city manager know about working in small towns, and what special responsibilities or personality traits do you possess that will make your tenure one that's successful? I also want to add, and keep in mind that Wayne is unique, not Westland.
Of course, of course. Yeah, every city is unique. Not only is every city unique, but there's different parts of every city that are or could be unique. Also, different demographics, different businesses, different cultural clusters, and I certainly understand that and appreciate that. Yes, Wayne is small. It's 6 square miles. 2 of those square miles are dedicated to Ford, so I definitely understand that. I understand your population is 18,000, which is also small. I think a city manager or a staff member or a council member or anyone working for a community of that size should understand what the decision makers want, but not only the decision makers, what the residents want, because every single resident in a small town their needs and wants are magnified as opposed to a population of 90,000 or a population of 10 million like the city of New York. You know, so I think that's a big realization that a city manager of a small town needs to understand. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Mulholland.
Position my cough drop into my mouth so it won't sound like I have one in there, just gonna be honest. Thank you for coming out tonight. There are many strategies for economic and community development. As you reviewed data and toured the city of Wayne, what do you see as our most pressing development issues, and what approaches might you suggest for us? And I'd like you to try to, if we could kind of stick with the economic and community development side of that, I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
What number was that? Number
Sorry,
16.
that was number 16.
Okay. One thing that stood out to me immediately while driving the business corridors, in all honesty, not driving within the residential neighborhoods, focusing on the commercial corridors, is I think the signs and facades of businesses need to be improved from an aesthetic standpoint. I think that the city or the DDA or other entities that are tied to the city can create a fund, if a fund does not exist, to potentially partially subsidize facade improvements or sign improvements, which could get business owners' attention to make additional or more substantial improvements. So it's kind of like something that they will nibble or bite on to kind of start thinking about additional aesthetic enhancements to their business, which not only improves their business and their ability to keep investing in their business and in the neighborhood, but also makes the city commercial corridors where many people drive up and down and maybe don't even realize that they're in Wayne more aesthetically pleasing, and then that just is a positive spin from many angles. So I think that would be a low-hanging fruit that the city could implement pretty easily. I'm not talking about substantial dollars, just something for business owners to get talking or to notice.
We do have a sign improvement. I think it's a $10,000 grant.
Okay.
I won't speak for the DDA director, but I know they do have one, and I think it's been used somewhat. I'm not positive on the exact numbers.
Okay.
But thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Councilman Clairman.
Number 19, tell us about one of the most complicated projects you have brought to your community or managed. How many partners and funding streams are involved? How did you keep everything on track?
Okay. One of the most there's a couple. I'm going to talk about a planning project. There's also some infrastructure projects like kayak docks through grant funding that we were awarded in Dearborn, but I'm going to focus on the cities of Dearborn's first multimodal transportation plan, and it was also the county's first multimodal transportation plan. When I say county, I mean no city in the county has had one. So we wanted to create in Dearborn a plan that studied all of the road infrastructure, all of the bicycle and walking infrastructure. There's some rail lines that cut through Dearborn, so we wanted to study those as well. So this was all comprehensive of all modes of transportation. Usually we get non-motorized transportation plans or stuff that focuses on surface transportation, but this was all inclusive. So the funding mechanisms were primarily from the city. There was some SEMCOG funding involved. I don't recall if that was funneled through Federal Highways or MDOT, but one of those two entities offered money towards it. There was a steering committee that involved SEMCOG, SMART, the regional bus transportation agency, several different staff members from the city, several different agencies and entities that we work with, including Friends of the Rouge, because the Rouge River cuts through the community, and we were talking about kayak docks at the time and several different recreational opportunities as well. So that was about a year-long project. We kept the council engaged, we kept the planning commission engaged, and the mayor's office, obviously, and all of these different entities that had different types of interests, including MDOT, who was like, hold on a second, we can't cut lanes on Michigan Avenue, but those were the conversations we were having. We were talking about modifications to the Southfield Freeway and Michigan Avenue interchange as well, which were pretty lengthy at the time. And I think I was in charge of this project, just wanted to mention that, I almost forgot. But keeping everyone on track with the common vision that this is a multimodal transportation plan for the city that is going to, if implemented, take 20, 30, 40, 50 years to implement, and it's for the betterment of the community and the city. And also the region. And this is about the same time when the RTA was having the ballot initiative for the bus rapid transit system from Detroit to Ann Arbor. So there was a lot of different magnitudes going on. But that's one of the projects I'm most proud of working on, and I didn't give it enough credit, but it was a complex project because of the different agencies and interests that were involved.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This is question number 28. Give an example of a personal or work-related issue where your integrity or character was challenged. How did you respond?
Early on in my career, early on in my planning career, working in the city of Dearborn as a planner, which is on my resume, I had a year or two into that role, maybe a year into that role. No, I'm sorry, let me back up. Working as a senior planner after leaving the planner position, a year into that senior planner role, we filled the planner position. The planner person who came on board to help had a similar background, had similar experience, previously did the similar work as I was doing, and it was a power struggle for about a year and a half to 2 years, almost during my duration as senior planner there. And we were younger, we were both the same age, we were both motivated to kind of be shining stars in the department, especially just getting into our careers. So there was this power struggle, there was this drama that unfolded, not on a day-to-day basis, but it was, you could tell that it was tense sometimes. And we tried to work through it. We didn't really get others involved, and it wasn't really prevalent to other people, but it was there, and it sucked a lot, but we ended up talking through it. We walked into a conference room one day at the tail end of my time working for the city of Dearborn, and just kind of had a brother-to-brother talk, similar to the conversation that I'm having with you today. We both knew what we wanted. We both wanted the same things, and he was under me and I was above him, and that probably shouldn't have been the case, being honest with you. I think that was a mistake that was done, and that's what contributed to that situation. That is probably the most difficult situation, and it was a great learning experience, and it was early on in my career, which I'm very thankful for, but that's the situation that comes to mind in response to that question.
Thank you for your honesty.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
This is supplemental question number 1. And if you could please use as the example, or feel free to use the example of your multi-mode project, which was captivating. What experience have you had working with developing policy for a city or other local government? And let me qualify that too, as to how you could make a team like we are here before you comfortable being able to carry out the creation of policies so that you can enact your activities?
Sure. I feel like first you have to understand whether the community wants this or not. After understanding that, you can approach it with a couple different ways. You can either stop or you can progress and continue the conversations with individuals who are on board and that want to see this thing happen because it's a positive thing for the community. And you can start to have a dialogue of why this is good, why this is bad, but in the long run, it's something that will make the community competitive. And those are the conversations I've had as it relates to non-motorized transportation, because I think there's a fear of changing the roadways, a fear that it's going to look like the Tour de France outside your curb cut, which it's often not, especially in areas of Wayne County. So I think those are the preliminary conversations you have to have internally, and I think you can start building consensus with leaders such as the city council, and then that trickles down to educating and getting the public on board. It's a long process. It's much longer than this interview is going to take, but if it's the right thing to do and you execute it and educate and have all of the information to express in an efficient manner, I think that you will ultimately succeed if people trust, which is a whole other conversation, building trust first. But if it's the right thing for the community, I think it'll succeed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Councilman Dowd?
Thank you, Mayor. Go with question number 29. Can you explain how you would allow citizen access to your office? Would you have an open door policy, and what does that term mean to you personally?
I've always had an open door policy. At one time, I had an open cubicle policy. But yeah, I've always had an open door policy. I think that is very important from a leadership perspective, and making people feel like you're on their team and that you are a family working towards the same vision and goal. For residents, I think that means being accessible when they need to voice concerns or they need answers or information. I think sometimes that you can delegate questions if needed, or you can respond if you have the information. But if you're going to delegate, I think that you have a responsibility to say that you're going to do so and follow up if and when necessary with either the staff member or the resident. I think to expand on that, a lot of business owners and some, not all, definitely more business owners, but some residents in the city of Westland, and when I was in Dearborn, I've given out my personal cell phone. I respond to emails almost all day when I'm up, and if I have the answers. I think a lot of work is done electronically now, which is just easy to do. So if I could do it, I'll do it. Open door policy means that you're available and open and willing to engage when needed with residents, the city council, and your staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Wass?
I'm gonna go with number 17. I'd like to know how much experience you've had with grant writing, any successes you've had with that, and how would you go about looking for external streams of funding for the city?
Sure. None of my experience on my resume has involved only grant writing. I'm not a grant writer. I only say that because I know the former city manager was, so I just wanted to be explicit about that, which I think is okay. I'm not being hired as a grant manager. However, in all of my positions on my resume, starting with Planner 1 in the city of Dearborn, I have been involved in grants, and I'm still involved in grants today, some of which were recently successful and some of which were recently unsuccessful. And you asked which grants I've worked on, is that correct? Yeah.
Which ones, some that you've worked on,
Okay.
and then what other streams of revenue you
okay.
would,
Okay, sure. One of my, not favorite, but one of my proudest grants that I have written and been a part of is one with the city of Dearborn, where we were awarded money to fund two kayak launches, one at Ford Field and one at a connection of the Rouge River by the golf course right off Telegraph, the viaduct there, to kind of make that kayaking trail. And we were able to secure that funding, I believe, through MDOT, but through DNR funding. And I am currently working on a Safe Routes to School grant with the Wayne Westland School District, the city, and OHM Advisors, which is the city's engineering company, on a grant. Well, we're writing a grant. The deadline is in February to obtain funding to redo the Newburgh and Marquette intersection, where two children were hit at two separate times. You may have heard about it in the news. So that's going to cost about $300,000 to completely do a signal modernization project there. So that's what this grant is about. How would I secure or find funding for the city of Wayne? In my past 2 years working for the city of Westland, it's been incredible how many grant opportunities are just kind of presented to you, either through email or through other parties. And I think that has a lot to do with the federal government and some of the COVID funding they've had. So I think just being aware of the grants and being communicative to other department heads or people that have the expertise or the knowledge of what kind of projects those grants can be used towards, but also like doing research, obviously, to and being engaged with SEMCOG and MDOT grant cycles and things like that, which I do on a regular basis.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Mulholland.
We all have strengths and we all have areas that we could probably strengthen. So I was wondering if you could share with us, what do you think your greatest strengths are, and what are the areas that you think you could use the most improvement in?
Sure. My strengths, my top strength is probably collaboration, team building, and making people feel like they're part of a team or part, I would like to think, part of a family, and that you're working together to achieve a common goal. I think that titles, while they mean something, I think sometimes you just need to treat people like they're individuals. Yes, we all have tasks that we need to accomplish, but we need to help each other perform and execute those tasks. And just being open door policy, or whether that's just helping people or encouraging people, or just being in the office, walking around while people feel like you're there to say hi or acknowledge them, or just to make them feel like they're a person or a human instead of them being intimidated that you're walking around the office. I think that in the past several years, especially during my time in Westland, has been a strength. And it has been strengthened during my time at the Ford School. We took several leadership courses, and leadership was a part of the curriculum. So I think that's a big strength of mine that I really enjoy about myself, because it's something that is great when you're able to bond with people, a council, residents. I'll just stop there. I'm kind of getting emotional for some weird reason, but okay. And a weakness. I think a weakness of mine is probably understanding how to prioritize different types of projects or different types of timelines, especially when you're working in an organization that has a lot of things being thrown at you. Obviously, I work with a planning commission, so there's a tight deadline there, but I'm also working on updating our zoning ordinance, which is 95% complete, but still requires several different tasks with the city council, with the steering committee, with the mayor's office, and also started updating the master plan, which requires those same things, plus citizen involvement. So I think it's just prioritizing several different projects and several different requests from business owners and things like that. But I have some help and staff members that assist me in doing that, so hasn't been an issue, thankfully. Thank you.
Councilman Clearman?
Number 22. What did it look like the last time an elected official, employee, or resident tried to push you to change a position you were holding? What determines when you hold your ground versus switching direction?
Gosh, that happens almost on a weekly basis, from the business community mostly. And I think that having the information, not necessarily off the top of your mind or in your back pocket, but being able to pause and reflect and have the patience to pull the information and show it to people, or the rules or regulations or whatever you're referencing or whatever you're relying on, is key, number one. Number two, there's often other players that are making, that are not making decisions, but also understand the decision or have involvement in it. And I think having their support or the same understanding as the decision that you're making is also key as well, so that everyone is on the same page and that you're voicing a decision that is agreed upon by all of the stakeholders internally. But mostly, I mean, following the rules and regulations that are set in place and being able to cite those as needed. You're welcome.
Okay. Question 20. What is the most important skill or talent a manager can have when it comes to council-manager relationships? Can you tell a time when you've had to rely on that skill to build or improve relationships?
I think the most important skill or attitude or approach that any city manager you hire, whether myself or someone else, or in any city, while working with the city council, should be openness and transparency with all of council, understanding that some things are going to be confidential between the city manager and the mayor, but I'm sorry, not the mayor, the city council as a whole, but making council informed of all of the decisions or all of the information that is occurring. So if I get an email that council needs to be aware of, you share it with all of council. If a councilman or a councilwoman sends me information of a situation that's occurring with the city, then I forward it on to all of council. I think trust is built that way with the entire council in transparency, and council learning that I have that strength. I think openness and communication is key when working with the council.
Okay. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Question number 18. Using the ArcGIS work that you did, the Atlas and the other wonderful database work, the technical work, could you please talk to us a bit about your use of technology as a tool for greater operational efficiency and as an effective communication and citizen engagement tool?
Okay. I am well versed in ArcGIS and different types of computer software. When I started for the city of Westland, we updated a lot of our maps, zoning maps that were static maps, printable maps, or PDF maps for residents and business owners into interactive maps for zoning purposes, for future land use, for a variety of different things, for them, residents and business owners, to be able to navigate, type in addresses or parcel ID numbers and be able to click on a parcel and view different types of information about a parcel. And we can direct residents and business owners to that link via the website or by sending them an email or whatever is needed for them to obtain that information. Then they can use it as they please. Sometimes people are searching different types of properties or various properties for various needs, and it's just easier for them to have that link in their back pocket instead of calling or emailing the city and waiting on a response. And that is one of the things technology-wise I was able to do in a previous role or in a current role.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Dowd?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying. It seems like I hit this mark every time when on the panel. And the fairness and consistency, clicked past the halfway mark. You want to take a drink of water? You've been answering a lot of questions before we move on. I'm going to go with number 7. When hiring a new employee to join and strengthen your team, what personality or character attributes are you looking for and why?
I'm going to try and answer your question directly in the words
Why I
that
had
you
you take
selected.
a drink and take a pause and recharge yourself.
You asked if I'm hiring an employee to can you restate at least half of that? Because I feel like you used language that you are expecting.
I'm just
a
reading the
response
question.
to.
I didn't make the question.
Could you repeat it one more time?
I think they're
please?
supposed to be as ambiguous as possible
I was drinking too much
without
water.
any leading traits, and not a yes or no question.
Right. I would appreciate it if you could please restate the question.
Want me to read it again?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
When hiring a new employee to join and strengthen your team, what personality and/or character attributes are you looking for and why?
Okay. To strengthen a team, I think you need to hire someone who is available to be open with other employees and able to work with other employees in a way that is fair and willing to be flexible with the type of work that they are received and the type of work that they are able to delegate in a way that is friendly. And to expand on that, obviously they need to have the qualifications to at least learn the job and be able to execute the job. But in strengthening a team, I think you are looking for someone who is able to work well with others and be part of a team-like environment, because there's people that do well in that type of environment and there's people that do well in environments when they are working in a silo. So I think a team player is what you would want in that type of role.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Wass?
So I'm going to go with question 11. From what you've learned about us, and you kind of know the little basic here, what do you think our 2 biggest challenges will be in the next 3 years, and how would you tackle them, and what process would you follow?
Your 3 biggest challenges. You know, I'll be honest with you, when I applied for this position and even when I was at home getting ready earlier today, I was like, oh my God, what if Ford stops making cars? What would happen here? And I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know what the solution would be. And I don't know if the city's ever had that conversation. But talk about problem 1, 2, and 3. I think that is something that at least needs to be in the back of council's mind, you know. I'm sorry if I opened up a can of worms, but I'm just being honest in what I've thought when I applied
Appreciate the honesty, go ahead.
for this position. So I don't have a solution for that, but I think that is probably problem one that could occur, not in the next 3 years, right? But I think there's some opportunity for the downtown. I'd like to learn more about what those opportunities look like internally and what conversations have been had internally. I think that there are problems with a leaking faucet at Gaudy Park. Is that what I heard from the former
You could,
interview? So I think that's a problem that needs to be resolved. I know you guys are working on some of the lead piping throughout town and have funding to upgrade some of that, which is exciting and obviously needed for the entire region and probably the entire state. And those are some of the problems I know of. So I did name 3, but
you
probably
did great. Thanks.
you're welcome.
Councilman Mulholland?
This is going to be number 12, question number 12. What size budgets have you been responsible for in the past? And what are you uniquely bringing to the table in the finance arena that will help us move forward while maintaining long-term financial stability?
That is probably my biggest weakness. When you ask for my strengths or weakness as it relates to this position, I probably should have answered. Never really worked with city budgets comprehensively. So I don't have that experience. I do have experience working on capital improvement plans, which by state law, the Planning Commission is responsible for reviewing and adopting. And those budgets include, in Westland and Dearborn included things such as road improvements, new pedestrian and non-motorized connections, and park improvements, even new parks, dog parks, both in Westland and Dearborn I was a part of those projects from conceptual design all the way to grand opening. So not very large budgets. I've also dealt with personnel budgets, though, from the planning perspective in both cities and also from the building department perspective in Westland. I am fiscally conservative as it relates to my ideology, so I'd like to share that with you. But that is probably my biggest weakness coming into this.
I appreciate your openness and honesty about that. And thank you.
No problem.
Councilman Clearman?
This one's not on the list. In the last 8 years, you've held 7 different positions.
Okay.
Can you speak to that, and how long do you intend to be city manager for?
I'm sorry, you said I held how many positions?
7?
Okay, I'm sorry, some of those positions sort of overlap. So just for transparency, for the rest of the council, so like, for example, planning director, I lecture at Eastern Michigan University as a guest lecturer, so I'm still in my main career is planning director, and then those 2 U of M research positions, including my time with the State Department, was also while I was working as a planning director. Those were research positions, and then the State Department was research also. So I just wanted to mention that, which you asked about, and then I haven't really thought about how long I would stay in Wayne. I mean, city managers, I have 2 master's degree, and the second master's degree is to become a city manager, and I don't intend on going back to school for a third. So I think the buck probably stops with city manager unless a president calls and asks me to be Secretary of State, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I can't give you years. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know how long I'm going to stay here, but I would like for it to be a while.
Good answers. Thank you.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you a question, but I wanted to follow up with some of the questions you just had. In Westland, you have a budget, I would assume, that you're given. How big of a budget are you responsible for
Yeah,
overseeing?
it's a little north of 8 or 9. It's under 10, but it includes the building department, which
That's
I
million, right?
yes.
Okay. I thought that was good clarification, because it's kind of confusing because of the type of position you're currently in.
Yeah, and the capital improvements plan is much larger than that, but I don't oversee that. There's the public services director that mostly oversees that budget, and the engineering department, and then there's also Parks and Recreation, which is involved in that. But we help the planning department, which is myself obviously included, oversees in developing that. So we're engaged in putting it together, but not executing it. So that's what I was trying to relay.
And I'm gonna ask a question off of this, because I do know you from outside because of your experience in Westland.
Sure.
And I've been to one of the meetings, I know you've been working on it longer than me.
Okay.
The Michigan Avenue Corridor.
Yes.
You wanna talk about that a little bit and what's going on and the partnerships with different cities and?
Sure, yeah. So that goes back to one of the reasons I feel comfortable sitting in this chair and being comfortable and being able to come into the city of Wayne after learning the operations and the goals of the city, being able to execute the job. It's because I feel that I have made not only relationships in the business world in both adjacent cities, but also municipal relationships from Canton Township, City of Dearborn, Garden City, also some relationships here, and also in Inkster, which I don't believe really exists anymore there. But various different cities that are adjacent to us, all western Wayne County cities, really with the same goals, visions, opportunities, and weaknesses, and one of which is a weakness and an opportunity is improving the Michigan Avenue corridor. We're working with Canton Township as the lead, but there's 7 total communities. Wayne and Westland are 2 of those 7 communities in being successfully awarded grant funding from the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments in reimagining what Michigan Avenue can look like, studying it from a motorized, from an aesthetic, from a pedestrian perspective, but also advancing that vision, whatever it is, once we have the plan put in place. I think there's an opportunity to highlight southeastern Michigan right here in your backyard, and people probably use Michigan Avenue pretty often between here and downtown Detroit and the airport. Obviously 94 is there, but Michigan Avenue is a big route that highlights Wayne and those other communities, and that's sort of the goal and the vision driving that project.
Mayor Pro Tem.
The City of Wayne needs to engage community members much more. So this is the supplemental number 4. The City of Wayne needs to engage community members much more, not only for volunteer efforts, but to participate in the working of government. Okay. What would you do to increase citizen participation in their local government?
Okay. I don't know currently how Wayne operates in terms of public engagement and those types of strategies, but one thing in the planning profession, not in Westland, although implemented in Westland, but in the planning profession, as it relates to your question, we like to go to where the people are, whether that's at a church, at a local diner, or a restaurant. We go and either have an event there on behalf of the city during a project that we are doing, whether it's a road improvement project. You can go to a restaurant and kind of invite the public. I understand that budgets are involved there and finances and things like that, but primarily going to the public where they are instead of having everything at City Hall. That's probably the easiest thing to do. I know I've seen you guys are very accessible as it relates to council meetings being up on YouTube and minutes and agendas. I don't know if they're live streamed, but I think that could be an easy thing to do. The mayor's shaking his head yes. I think that, yeah, I'd like to keep it there with going to the public. I guess it really depends on what you're trying to, information you're trying to send out. But there's probably a lot of different stakeholder groups within the city of Wayne and understanding where they congregate and what where their social networks tend to go. I think you can have opportunities by going to those places.
Thank you. I think that's very social and human response. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we normally do live stream except for tonight.
Okay. Okay.
We're not live streaming this evening. That's what is cracking up about that. But any questions for the council that you have?
I don't have any questions. I want to say that I did look at the interview list today and tomorrow's. If I'm not mistaken, a majority of the list has people that have city management experience, and I don't want to downplay planning director because it does involve and branch out to several different departments. But I guess my intention in this statement is that I will bust my butt to serve you, to serve the residents, to learn what you want, to come in and learn how the city operates. I am young, and I know I have a talented background to be able to perform and execute the job. And I think I am someone that could be molded into operating as the city wants. I'm not saying I'm going to be a yes man, but I'm saying that I don't come in with old habits that I'm going to lean into and keep. I'm saying that I am potentially someone who has an outside vision of what city management can look like. As you've heard, I lean into my human and personal and social side, which is building a team and leadership and not management. And I think I want to leave it at that. I think that's it. I don't have any questions for you. I've watched the two special meetings, so I know what you guys have been up to, and appreciate all the headache that goes into that. So that's it. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know staying till 9 or 10 o'clock is a challenge. So thanks. Really, I would love working here.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for coming in.
Thank you.
You want to take another 5 minutes? Just want to take 5 minutes? We're 6 minutes ahead.
I didn't take the 5 minutes before, so.
So you need 5 minutes?
On to the
Okay. We're going to take in 5 minutes. We'll re-adjourn at 9. Okay, we are back, and we have Susan Montenegro? Montenegro. It's close, sorry. And so what we're going to do is for about the next 45, 50 minutes, we're going to ask you questions. Then we're going to let you ask any questions back to us, and then let you close with a closing statement or something, if anything that you want to say to us that you didn't feel like we heard or whatever you want to let us know. Okay, we're going to start off with Councilwoman Was.
Well, let's see. Let's start with question number 4. What will your first 3 months look like if you were the city manager?
I believe it's very important to get to know council members, to get to know.
Hold on 1 second. I think her microphone's dead. Yep,
Oh,
there we go.
green, sorry.
Wasn't sure. Sorry.
That's okay.
I just saw the
They're all
green light.
different. Sometimes
Green
it's
light wasn't on.
red or yellow or green.
Sorry.
I believe it's very important in the first 3 months to get to know council members very well, to understand what the goals are of the council, to really get a good relationship going with not only council but also staff. They're the backbone of the organization, so it's very important to be in touch with them, to build that relationship, and to be visible in the community. So those would be my first 3 things. Also understanding the projects that you already have in place, where you're at in that, and you're jumping into budget season, so budget will be on top of that as well within those first 3 months. It's jumping in and just getting going.
Being busy.
Being busy, yep.
Okay. Councilman Mulholland.
This is question number 16. There are many strategies for economic and community development. As you reviewed data and toured the city of Wayne, what do you see as our most pressing development issues, and what approaches might you suggest for us? And if we could kind of stick with the economic and the community development side of that, please.
Yep, getting empty storefronts filled would be very important. Working on also developing empty we'll just say empty industrial sites to make sure. I know Ford is large here, and that is amazing, that is wonderful. But there are other lands and property out there as well that can also be something that can be marketed for economic development. It's very important to promote as part of your economic development strategy, and really dig into what your master plan, your future land use goals are, so that you stay in line with what has already been articulated and put into that plan, not only by council, but also citizens here in the community, business owners and industrial owners, commercial owners. So it's something that helps to meet those needs.
Councilman Clearman.
On the first page, you explain why you have a couple short tenures here. But I'm curious what happened between the 10 years. For city manager of Eaton Rapids, you left in April 22. What happened between then and July 22? And then after that, what happened between July 23 and now?
Yep. When I was in Eaton Rapids, I was hired under one council and started, hired in December of that year and started in January under a new council. And they chose differently. I was not their selection that they wanted, so 97 days later, I was dismissed without cause. In Lathrop Village, it was not a good fit for me personally. There were a lot of issues in that community itself. And this job is a stressful job to begin with, but there was an inordinate amount of stress in that position, and it started affecting me physically. So I chose to leave to maintain my sanity and bring my blood pressure that I'd never had My blood pressure usually runs like 106/60, and it was 150/100 regularly. So I chose to walk away from that. It's not something that I wanted to do. It's just something that happened.
Thank you.
Okay, this is question number one. Tell us why you want to be the city manager in the city of Wayne, and point out what particular skills and experience you possess that would make you a good fit for us.
The city of Wayne, you guys have so much going for you in the community itself. You have an amazing downtown that's like a hidden charm here, and helping to promote that and really bring attention to the downtown is something I would love to be a part of. Also, you have an amazing staff, from what I have been told, and it would be great to work with them. You're a cohesive council that is also alluring for a manager to come into. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I feel like I'm getting off topic there just a little bit.
Sure, I can repeat it. Tell us why you want to be the city manager of the city of Wayne, and point out any particular skills and experience you possess that would make you a good fit for us.
I am really a relational person. I'm a team builder. It's very important for me to develop strong relationships with each council member and council as a whole. It's also important for me to develop those relationships within the staff members. I have a hard time saying staff. I always call them my team members. I'm a part of the team. I don't like to be boss unless I have to be boss. I'm part of the team, and I want to be there being a part of that team. I think that the skill set that I bring in, I have strong union negotiation skills. I have grant writing skills, not to the extent that the previous city manager had here. I know when to ask for help when there's something that I'm not sure of doing. I'm not ashamed or afraid to ask for help. I think that that's also important. And I ask questions. It's sometimes we get into a rut of doing things because that's how things have always been done. And I'm a little different, that I ask, well, why? How is that working? Well, why not? If an answer is given to me, well, this is how we've always done it. Well, have you thought of something else? No, it's how we've always done it. Well, why? Why not try something different? And encouraging that among team members and among council as well, helping you also to step out of your comfort zones a little bit. I have strong financial acumen as far as the budgets go. I'm very comfortable developing budgets, understanding where monies are spent, and digging into your budget as well. There's some questions I have later on, if they're not addressed through questions, that I will be asking at the end of this. So I believe that I have well-rounded experiences that will help me in this role.
I lost track of who was that me last?
You switched the order up this time, so we thought you were paying attention.
Yep, Mayor Pro Tem.
This is supplemental question one. What experience have you had working with and developing policy for a city or other local government? And this would be would you be comfortable in helping a council like this performing that activity?
Yes, experience that I've had in developing policy, working with personnel manuals, working with, now all of the things are going to go out of my head. With your standard operating plans, making sure that those are in place and up to date. Also working with council as far as goal setting and policies that you would want to develop. I have done a lot of ordinance writing, helping council to understand an ordinance, what that language is, making sure that it's written correctly. Also going through with planning and zoning to make sure that all of those things are addressed as well. Other policies, I want to continue on, but they're escaping my mind at the moment. I'm sorry.
You covered it all pretty much already prior with your planning remarks. So
Oh, okay,
I appreciate
great.
that.
Great.
Okay. Councilman Dowd.
Thank you, Mayor. Give me a second just to thumb through my catch up here. go with number 20. Number 20, the question is, what is the most important skill or talent a manager can have when it comes to council-manager relationships? And can you tell us a time when you had to rely on said skills or to build or improve a relationship?
Wow. Council-manager relationships are very important. Obviously, you're all my bosses. You're my boss. It's not, you're my boss, you're my boss, you're my boss, you're my boss, you're my boss. You're collectively, you are my boss. And we always have a saying in our profession that there's 18 hours between having a job and not having a job. 18 hours is what you have to post for a special meeting, so it's very important. You didn't know that, did you? And it's not tongue-in-cheek, so please don't take it that I'm being that way. But it's very important to work on those relationships. So I think one of the most important skills is listening for the city manager, is building those relationships, and also having the oomph to maybe say something you don't want to hear, in that it can be scary for a manager at times, because it's hard to tell a council when something or a direction they're taking is not beneficial for the city. It doesn't mean it's not the right thing, it just may not be the right time. So having that ability to listen and trust is very important, I think, in the council-manager relationship. Also understanding council sets policy, manager implements that policy. So it's very important to understand those roles, and you guys are pretty on cue with that, so that's wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Was?
So I want to say, first of all, that I did get the opportunity to call Mr. Bender.
Oh, okay.
That was a very pleasant conversation. He speaks very highly of you. But since that's out there, right? Trying to find the tug of war one. Give me 1 minute.
That's okay.
10.
It's 10.
Number 10, thank you. So number 10, city manager is often in the midst of tug of wars between departments or employees, residents, elected officials, neighborhoods, or others, or all others groups at once. What is your go-to strategy in dealing with the conflict or a derisive priorities?
When there's conflict, for me, it's important that if somebody comes to me and shares they have a conflict, let's say there's conflict between two staff members, it's very important to get them together to discuss that and work through that. I don't like to triangulate situations if I don't have to. So if you can get two people to understand maybe we're going in the same direction, we just have different approaches of how we're doing it. It doesn't mean either way is wrong, it's just different. Sometimes they're on different positions altogether, and compromise, what is going to work best for the city. If it's between council members, I want to shy away and redirect back to council. That is something you as council should be dealing with. It's very difficult when the city manager gets involved in that, but you guys are very cohesive, so that's a wonderful thing again to hear. With citizens, I think if there's conflict there, education is very important, maybe sharing information that they're not aware of, or just simply listening to what their concerns are. When I was in Owasso, I had a gentleman that came into my office, and he had bounced from office to office to office, and I had heard probably for a month before that, oh, he's trouble when he comes in. He's going to be angry. He's going to be irate. I can't deal with him. And it finally escalated up to me as the assistant city manager. So when he came into my office, I just sat and I listened to him. And he had told me that his wife had previously passed within the last 6 months. And as we talked, I don't even remember what the issue was now, But as we talked, I do remember asking him, well, what do you think your wife would think of these concerns that you have? What would be her position or her take on this? And he said, nobody had ever asked me that before. And then his tone changed. He just wanted somebody to sit and listen to him. And he stopped coming to City Hall after that. That doesn't work every single time, obviously. But the ability to sit and listen to somebody's concern or help to de-escalate issues when they start, I think that's what I bring, so.
Thank you.
Councilman Mulholland?
We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. And I don't like to call them weaknesses. I like to say areas that we need to strengthen. So could you share with us what do you feel like are your biggest strengths? And then what are those areas that you need some work on?
My biggest strengths, I shared some of them already. I think my financial acumen, I have experience with brownfields and TIFs and DDA and dealing with the public. I'm very personable, relational. I think some of my weaknesses are, I tend to be, and this is very just, I think everybody says this to a degree, I'm very hard on myself and not letting that get into my head if somebody's not happy with something, to not take that so personally. It's that issue that they're upset with, and to hear it from that viewpoint rather than, oh, they're upset at me. They may be upset at me at the moment, but it's really the issue that they are upset with, and I just happen to be the person that they're coming to share that with at the time. So not taking that personally and taking it home with me, I think is one of my weaknesses. I have strong union contract negotiations, and I know that you have a 312 arbitration. I've never done one of those before, but that's where I would be present. I would defer to the labor attorney that would be present for that arbitration, or I would be well-versed in everything going up to that point to be present, to be there to represent the city. So just to let you know, that experience is not something that I have had, but again, it's something that I am very happy to reach out to fellow managers and ask their experience and their approaches so that I get a better understanding of how to proceed with that.
Thank you.
Councilman Clarenman?
You brought up in the break prior to the meeting that it was a bit of a drive here
Yes.
and that it's a worse drive during the daytime. Will that be a problem for you if you get the job as city manager? And how long do you expect to have that job?
How long do I, well, hopefully for 10 or 15 years, if you allow me to do that. My intention is to move into this area so that I'm closer. I have done, when I was younger, I did an internship for Owasso before I started there as the assistant city manager, and I drove an hour and a half one way every day, but the traffic was from Richmond, which is between Port Huron and Flint, to Owasso. A lot different traffic flow than here, and I did that for 10 months and decided that's enough to drive that amount of time. So I would move here, and hopefully to be here 10, 15 years or longer if you'll let me.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, and if you want to take a drink, you can. At this time.
Take a drink.
Oh, you took my line. That's not supposed to happen for our 10 minutes.
I know, I just.
Terrible.
I love that you guys get along so well. That's wonderful.
Okay, question 21. How will you handle it if it appears a council or individual elected official might be headed down a path of unintended consequences or liabilities? Better yet, if you have faced that situation before, tell us the story of what happened and how you handled it.
The old adage, the road to, is paved with good intentions. You know, I would assume that everybody has good intentions of where you're trying to lead the city to. If there is a direction that a council member is taking, or council as a whole, I would probably talk with the mayor and talk with that person together, rather than heading that off. If it is the mayor that's heading down the wrong road, and again, I'm not trying to be tongue-in-cheek, it's something that building those relationships are so important, so that you have that level of trust that you can say, hey, what are you doing? You know, stop it, turn around, come this way. And I would hope that you would do the same with me. You know, if it's something that you see, I want to have that relationship so that you have that comfortability to be able to say that to me, not in a harsh tone, you know, but hey, this needs a little correction, or I see this that needs to be addressed. I would hope to be able to do that. I've found that it's a lot easier when you have those good, strong relationships to be able to do that than when you don't. In my last position, there was really not an ability to build those strong relationships. I tried, but it was just something that you couldn't tell them. You can lead a horse to water, but you couldn't make them drink. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm throwing out all those cliche sayings tonight. But the ability to have that conversation again, and even with staff, not only would I say that to them, but I would hope that they would come to me and say the same thing. You know, hey, I didn't like how you did this, or I'm concerned by what you meant by this. Can you explain it a little better? I'm very happy to do that. So I would hope that in building those strong relationships with council and with my team, that we would all have that ability to have those communications. So that's how I would handle that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
I was looking through the questions and I had some I selected, but you answered them actually. So I'm going to go with number 3, supplementary number 3. What sort of, we're beginning to attract a bit of attention here in the city of Wayne. So what sort of experience have you had with county, state, and federal officials, officials elected and otherwise, in your work?
County officials, I've had experience working with them. It's great to have good relationships with your county. With your federal and your state, it's vital to have good relationships with them. When I was in Leslie, it was through the heart of the pandemic, and I would get on the call. Leslie's very small in Ingham County, and our representative at that time, Congresswoman Slotkin, would have, I forget what the name of them were, but she would have meetings to talk to everybody to say, how are you doing here? And it was my moment to say, hey, we're so small, we're falling between the cracks. We desperately need help, but we're not getting any help with any of the grant funding because it's going to the larger municipalities or townships. And I complained so much that she actually came to our community to walk through the community and have a tour. We would have representatives that would, both state and federal, that would come and have coffee hours, and I would make sure that I attended those so that they knew who I was and what was going on in the community. I don't have a problem doing that. I think it's vital to build those strong relationships. So being able to say, these are the needs that we have, this is the funding we need, we're really struggling in this area, what do you got to help us? I'm good at that, so that's one of those things I enjoy doing.
Thank you.
Councilman Down. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yes, sir.
We know something about that around here, that's for sure. Being a small community in Wayne County.
Squeak, squeak.
I'm going to go with number 3. If offered the position of city manager, how will you go about getting to know the community and staying connected with the residents?
I am a Rotarian, So I would love to join the Rotary here. I think that's a great way to get connected. I'm also, if you notice in my previous life, I was a pastor for 10 years in the Methodist Church, and I left because of the politics in the church. So now I do city management where there's no politics at all. But I am not opposed to attending church services. I find it very interesting to go to different churches to get to know people. I found when I've been trying to get people to come to workshops or meetings and you don't have good turnouts to those, you have to go where the people are. I don't mind going to that and sharing with them what's going on in the city. I would want to get to know the business owners through the DDA and by frequenting the businesses that are here in the community. Also building relationships with the factories that are here because they make up a huge part of the city of Wayne. So we have to be very cognizant of those relationships and the needs that are there. Also, just being active and engaged in the community. That's why I want to move to this area so that I can walk the streets in the summertime and I can be engaged here and participate in the functions that you have going on in the community. So I want to be as actively involved as I can. I think it's very important.
Thank you.
She looks thirsty.
Hmm?
She looks thirsty.
No, you've already messed that up.
Councilman Watts.
So, question 24, looking back at your career, what do you see as the most innovative project or program you were involved in, or the most creative solution to a problem you recommended? Tell us how you were involved.
In Owasso, we had a brownfield that the city owned property in. There were 5 parcels, and working with the local economic development corporation there, with the chamber, with the commercial realtors, we were able to attract Cargill to come in and put a food warehouse there, a food, I forget the exact name of it, but feed, there you go. So it was not processed or made there, but, it was not made there, but it was processed and packaged there. So we also had to work with the local rail line to make sure that we could get a spur put into that. It was a very comprehensive project that required the city. It was such a long process, so I'll go back and start at the steps. Because we had a 5-parcel brownfield that was already in place, those participating properties were much smaller than the property that the city owned. The city owned a 20-acre parcel in that. And every year we were upside down on the tax capture for it. So we were not making any money to pay back anything into that. We realized at the city that it was very important to put infrastructure in. We had to put a public roadway in. We had to put water and sewer so that we could connect that. And it was on the western side of the city, and in that section of the city, there was no looping of the water or sewer lines there. So if there was a break, it cut everybody off, no matter what it was. So it was important for us to loop that and have those connections there. So the very intricate stuff that it pertained to, the city became the developer. The MEDC, the Michigan Strategic Fund, decided to split off the 5 parcels and do 2 parcels together, which was the city-owned parcel and Sonica, which is another company that is there, and create that brownfield together. We're the developer, therefore it was my job to write the brownfield plan, which if you've ever read a brownfield plan, I had never done that before, so it was something that I had to do. And created that, the TIF plan that went with it, the capture, the repayment, all of those things, and then present it to the Michigan Strategic Fund. In the end, It was something that was awarded, and we brought an $18 million project into the city. When it started, because we had a 5-parcel plan, I was told I just needed to amend that. Well, that's a lot easier than trying to rewrite the entire brownfield. So I spent 6 months between the Economic Development Corporation, between Cargill, between the MEDC and the Michigan Strategic Fund, doing those things. And finally, at the end of 6 months, when I turned it in, they were like, "Oh no, this is not what we want at all. We need to cancel these other projects that are there because they're not collecting money, and we need to close those out, and you need to present us with a new plan." So I was ready to pull my hair out at that point. But it was something that it took me another 3 months to put together, and it was approved. So
Big project, congratulations.
big project, yes, thank you.
Councilman Mulholland?
How successful have you been in securing grant funding in the past? Excuse me. And looking at the state and federal landscape going forward, what projects with external funding streams would you be concentrating on here?
That's 17?
I have been successful with Brownfield through the MEDC and through Eagle. At the time, it was DEQ. Did a $9 million Brownfield rehabilitating property where an old dry cleaner was at, in protecting the city's wellhead. Our water wells were in close proximity there, so we had to protect that and put in vapor barriers. But I've done DNR grants for parks. Other grants, we've had MDOT grants. I've not written those, but I have been a part of collecting the information needed for those. We've relied heavily on our engineers or zoning or planning partners that we work with for any of those. I think I'm very comfortable with grants in seeking those out. I know that there are a slew of grants available. It's also important to be able to discern what ones are worth the work you have to put into it and what would actually create more work for the city than it's worth at the time. So you have to be knowledgeable of that. But I'm very willing to go after those. I know in Owasso, they just received a $16 million grant from, what is her name? I see her face, but I can't think of her name. Stabenow, there you go. I knew if I thought I could see her, but I just couldn't think of her name. To be able to do the fire department there, redo that, to tear it down and build a new one. In Lathrop Village, we were in the running for 15 projects that Congresswoman Tlaib was doing for up to $4 million. And we were able to, when I left, we were in the running to receive $4 million to be able to redo our water and sewer lines there, because we all have old infrastructure. Everybody that I know of deals with that as well. So that's where those relationships are so important to build with your federal, state, and county officials. In Ingham County, we worked very closely with the township that actually surrounded Leslie. Leslie was in the heart of Leslie Township, and we worked together to secure, between the school system, Leslie Township, and the city of Leslie, to secure funding to put in park trails that would connect the schools so that the students had trails that they could walk on to get from one part of the city to the other part of the city. More than $600,000 were put into that, so those are part of the things that I have sought out as grants, and definitely willing to learn more and continue to seek out any and every grant available to bring into the community that is helpful.
And was the $9 million brownfield, was that Owasso? I'm gonna
Yes.
guess?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Councilman Clareman?
Number 22. What did it look like the last time an elected official, employee, or resident tried to push you to change the position that you held? What determined when you held your ground versus switched directions?
So you're asking, can you state that again? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand.
What did it look like the last time an elected official, an employee, or a resident tried to push you to change a position that you held? What determined when you held your ground versus when you switched direction?
I have lots of examples from Lathrop Village, but I'm not going to use any of those just because of the things that happened there. And I'm sorry, that is not polite to say that to you, because now you're going to wonder what happened in Lathrop Village. But in Owasso, we had a council member that would come in and would talk in every department for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours at a time. And then he would go and sit in the city manager's office for the rest of the day. And it's okay if you want to stop in and say, hey, how you doing? Been thinking about you in maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But when you're there an hour, you're preventing staff from completing the work that they need to do. And I would gently go up to him and say, hey, thanks for coming, but they really need to get their work done. My position was, you need to not visit as long. And he pushed back really hard. Well, I'm getting work done here. You know, it's my job as a council member to make sure that staff is doing what they're supposed to. And my position was, I appreciate your effort and your thought there, but it's really the city manager's job to make sure, or the department heads to make sure that the work is getting done. And if you want to come in and do that, then we're going to have to provide overtime for the staff that, you know, cannot get their job done because you have been there. And he didn't stop coming to visit, but he started to lessen the length of time that he would spend in each department. So I was a little effective there. I think it was really difficult when I was in a different community that council didn't understand their role as council to create the policies, and it was administration's job to implement those policies. They wanted to be very hands-on in the policy implementation. And looking back at that now, you know, I was very strong-headed and, no, you can't do this, you know, so that created this kind of head-to-head abutting of opinions or opposing opinions. I tried to get them to allow an outside firm to come in and work with us so that we would be able to understand those roles so much better. But I think now that I can look back at it, I wish my approach would have been, what are the questions you have that aren't getting answered, and how can I provide information to you that makes you feel more comfortable about the processes that are taking place at City Hall so that you see we're doing what council is asking us to do. So it's a growing moment for me as well.
Okay. Question 18. Talk to us a bit about the use of technology as a tool for greater operational efficiency and as an effective communication and citizen engagement tool.
Technology. First of all, my husband works for the state of Michigan. He has a master's degree in computer science, and we probably have 18 computer type things in our home. Everything you eat, sleep, drink, whatever, turn the lights on, turn the lights off, it's all computerized. So technology can be great. It can also be overwhelming. I've learned a lot. I'm nowhere near where my husband is at on that, but I believe technology allows you to be connected to your citizenry only to the level that they are comfortable to use that. So you still have to have other ways to be able to connect with your citizens and make sure that you're actually getting information out to them. It's very important to make sure that the technology you use within City Hall, that council uses, whoever is attached to the network here, is very secure. Nobody likes to be held hostage and be in the news about that, and have your data breaches happen. So it's very important for me. I usually do whatever community that I'm in, I do an assessment to find out where you are with your technology and with the IT department to make sure that everything is up to where it should be. I'm probably a little more stringent about that than most are, but that's my husband's fault. So, so technology can be great. Social media, being able to get information out there to your citizens through Facebook, through Instagram, through, oh gosh, all of the different technology, LinkedIn, whatever platforms you can use through Twitter to be able to share that information is important. The message needs to be consistent that goes out, so that you don't have 20 different messages saying 20 different things out there. And I think having a communications plan is very important so that you know if an emergency happens, who says what, at what time, whose responsibility it is to do this, that, or the other thing that is on that list. And that helps you kind of mitigate when an emergency situation happens, that everybody's running in different directions. Okay, you know this is your job, you know this is your job, you know this is your job, and boom, we all go and it's taken care of. Here's the message we're presenting, or if we have a street closure or a water main break, or we have a derailment, God forbid, or something else happens, an accident that is out there, and we need to get information out to the community, we know whose responsibility it falls upon. Usually it's the manager. Sometimes it's the police chief or the fire department that has to get that information out there. So technology helps us to be able to do that as well. Sorry, that was a very long explanation on technology.
Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Just answer my question. How have you in the past, this is number 15, change just slightly. How have you in the past, and how would you plan here at this location to create and support a shared vision for the city of Wayne?
Shared vision, are you talking just the city, or are you talking?
I might say it better. How would you help us to differentiate? We're a small city amongst these others. It's different. How could you help? How would you plan to create and support that differentiation so that our neighbors are aware of this unique community that's right here in the middle of them all?
Yes. I think as far as communicating, it's multifaceted there, because you want to have good relationships with all of your township supervisors, managers, city managers, council members, or the mayors at least, so that you can have that good rapport. I know when I was in Lathrop Village for Oakland County, we had a managers meeting and then a mayor's dinner that city managers would attend along with their mayors. Sometimes council would also attend that, but that gives you the opportunity to be able to talk to them and share things that are going on in your community that maybe they weren't aware of. Being able to have branding that really speaks to your community, speaks about what your community is about. I know that's something you guys have been struggling with, is finding your voice here and how you're going to communicate that out. I know of several people that are amazing at that I would probably pick their brains, if not do contractual work with them to bring them on to help get the branding out there. It really helps to spread the word, and oh, that's the city of Wayne. Yeah, oh, I see that. It makes me think of Wayne. And did you know they have this going on? Did you know that this is the birthplace of? Did you know that so-and-so did this? Did you know that the Ford Motor Company is a big part of the community of Wayne, of the city of Wayne? Wayne is not just a blip. Did you know that downtown actually has this, that, and the other thing that are there? It allows you to be able to put that out there so that everybody else around you understands that, and you're rubbing elbows with them. So it's important in that relationship building to be able to have those conversations with them, just as they share with me things that are going on with their community. Then I can put that in my weekly notes to you as council members. Hey, this is going on in the community next door or in the county, in case you were not aware of that. And it's a great way to show support for them. We would hope that they would come and participate in things that Wayne has going on too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, what questions do you have for the council?
Okay. I have been looking at your budget for this year and noticing that it's stated in there of your structural deficit of 1.2 million. Even though you have a good, solid, almost $6 million general fund balance, it's something that you historically have been having happen. I've also noticed that your MERS contribution is hefty, a polite way to say that, and that you have a levy that goes on your winter taxes to help defray that cost. How is council addressing this? It's something you can do here or there to take money from your fund balance, but there's only a matter of time before you don't have a fund balance significant enough to be able to do that from, and you're in trouble for that. So what are council's thoughts on that?
So, we only had the judgment levy one time.
Only one time.
It doesn't happen every year.
Oh, okay.
But you're right, there is a structural deficit. Council's tried a few different types of things that we could go for. The communities voted those down. They didn't want to pay any more because we're maxed at their mills. So that's an issue that we are trying to figure out. That where do you go? Where is the revenue stream?
Right.
We have a revenue stream problem. Our financial plant Moran continues to tell us that we don't have a spending problem. It's you just don't have. You've got so many commitments and you've got to
Right.
you got to deal with it. But our staff has done an incredible job at cutting and downsizing and right sizing. And if we'd have been doing that for years, we'd be in better shape. I mean, at one point we didn't have any fund balance, and so we built that fund balance up.
That's amazing.
And so we're in better shape than we were before. But like you said, it's gonna. If we don't come up with a solution, it's gonna be a problem again.
Right. Is it something that you thought of shared services with communities surrounding?
We did that once. We did a shared service with the fire department with another community, and unfortunately that didn't work out the way that we anticipated. I mean, the potential, I think it was could have been handled differently. In hindsight, I think there was things that were done wrong in that at the time, but until you do it, you don't realize what's wrong.
Yeah.
Till you look
Right.
back at it, I still think that was the right thing to do. If it was done, implemented in the right place, because for that situation, we're all calling 911, and all people want is somebody to come and help you at that point, and we have joint. Everybody works together in mutual aid, so if there's a problem, we're coming anyway.
Right.
So
So is it
why is
something
everybody
that-
talking together?
The fire department, it was provided by outside of Wayne, or was Wayne providing the services to
Well,
surrounding communities?
the neighboring community was running it, and we kind of got swallowed up into it, and it didn't work the way that it was intentional, and there was
Okay.
other communities that were supposed to join that just never happened. So it kind of never materialized to what the vision of it really was, so.
Okay, that's good to know.
We
I would just like to add.
recalculated our MERS payments,
Yep.
Yes,
which was a big help, but it just pushed it down a little farther.
right.
There's still a big number out there that's
Yeah, you're
openly,
only,
hopefully they will
61% funded.
push
so-
that out again,
Yeah,
because we can only afford so much.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's a difficult position to be in, and I'm not putting any judgment out there, I'm just asking questions, so,
No, it's a definite issue that that we're wrestling with.
yes.
And these are fixed problems that you have identified very quickly. And we're struggling to find a revenue stream. We have, as you may have already noticed, and I think you mentioned it earlier, we have manufacturing areas that are still, they're manufacturing areas, but we don't have any manufacturers in there.
Right.
And we have opportunities to bring on new manufacturers here and get a bunch of jobs to come in here, but we need to work out the plan on how to accomplish that, which reaches back to my question about the policy and
Yes.
how to set the policy so that we can participate in that activity, because apparently we have some input on that. And then also there's been and this goes across the county and across the state, across the United States and everything, a lack of investment in the infrastructure, but not only in the general infrastructure and the public infrastructure that we all contribute to. The companies themselves have not been doing that. So to find a way to encourage them to do that so that they can increase their own, they don't seem to be, it seems incredible, but they don't seem to be aware that this will produce even more profit for them. So some way to make those bridges, those connections with these companies so that they can come on board and become part of the solution, rather and in that way start some sort of revenue stream. But just as I'm struggling to provide you a definition of the problem, that's how we're seeking a new revenue stream, some way to increase the income to the local government, while also making sure that we have housing for everyone,
Yes.
making sure that we have more jobs come into the area. And then I'll just, one other thing to consider is we are, and should be in a position to naturally overcome this, because we're
Yes.
between Detroit and Ann Arbor, so we're a natural attractor for both locations. So that's the sort of direction that, thanks for your question.
That is great. Are you guys on RRC, right, redevelopment ready community?
We have an excellent economic development director, and they're working towards that.
Yes.
No, we're actually paused it. We were working on it, but it's been paused right at the moment.
Okay, I was gonna say, through they've changed their process of what they do now and kind of lessened the burden that it put on communities to complete the RRC process. So it's more helpful, but it's something that you create policies through that help you meet the needs of economic development that you need. And then once you are a certified community, they help to market your properties. There's also, as you're going through the process, there's technical assistant grant dollars that are available to help you with some of those projects to be able to complete. So I would suggest using those as well. So
Thank you.
Anything else?
when do I start?
Any closing, anything that you felt that we didn't get to know about you that you wanted to tell us about?
Anything we didn't ask that you think we should know?
I'm a mom to 4. I have 3 daughters and 1 son, and I have a grandbaby who is 3. I also have an exchange student daughter that came to us in 2015, 2016 from Norway. So I actually have 4 daughters and 1 son. There you go. I have 2 son-in-laws, and I'm very personable. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and interview for this position, and I look forward to working with you all if I am offered the position. So thank you for the opportunity here, and any questions or follow-ups that you have, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan, nice to meet you.
I'm sorry?
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm always leery. I don't know if people are open to handshaking.
We are.
With I will come around and shake everybody's hand. Thank you. With COVID having happened, I always want to ask first. So nice to meet you. Thank you, so nice to meet you all.
You get to take all the closed waters with you. As a parting gift.
On my hour and a half drive home, so thank you all.
Thank you.
There was an agenda hiding in here, but it's gone now.
You have to have a motion to adjourn.
Then we gotta do public comment. Oh, she's gotta,
It's in here, so see there.
Got things to do? All right, I'll be quiet then.
go ahead and move the agenda for us.
It's just got in here.
We got a couple more things that have to be done.
You ready?
Oh, public comments, awesome.
Public comments for matters not on the agenda. Public comment is conducted in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. Each public comment is limited to 3 minutes, which will begin when the speaker approaches the podium unless modified by a majority vote of city council. Public comment shall not be disruptive nor contain any profanity, racial, ethnic, religious, sexual, or national origin slurs or overtones. Public comment shall be directed to city council. City council will not respond during public comments. Any violation of public comment procedure shall constitute a breach of the peace. If a member of the public engages in such breach of the peace, they may be ordered to be seated immediately or moved by the chairperson of that meeting.
Okay, any public comment this evening? Anyone? Yes,
This is not on the
not on
agenda.
the agenda.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I think you all know me by now. I don't really have a comment. I have more of a question that relates to, I guess, kind of like the future of the auto industry. Has anybody thought about possibly putting in 2 charging stations that could operate off of, like, I know a couple Ford plants, they do it for their employees, and they're allowed to do in a 4-hour segment of charging their vehicle. But I've also seen where the control box has a slot for a credit card or a debit card, and once the initial installation, which I understand from talking to DTE today, is about $1,250 per unit. So once that's paid off, and they do have rebates going on right now for those units, they do all the work, all the electrical work and installation, from what I understand. But it's probably only a small amount that would be gained by having those charging stations and people being able to use their credit card or debit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else this evening? Okay. Council, anybody want to have comments? I want to just quickly address it. I think that's a great idea. I think it's something that we should talk to the DDA about and talk to Lori. I think that's where that idea should go, because the DDA would have the ability with city lots to be able to maybe do something with that. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. And I tell you what, it's kind of very exciting. I think we had 4 really good interviews tonight, and looking forward to tomorrow. I think I'm the only council person, not sure if Matt's experienced this in the past, having to go through the hiring of a city manager experience. But this is much better than my past experience. So, oh yeah, you were already on staff at that point, yes. But yeah, this is a much better experience than I had in the past, so. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.